Chapter 867. Opinionated. Pa, 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 pa. Hearing Ning Yu's words, the squinted martial artist clapped his hands and smiled. I admit that what you said is the truth, but so what? What can it change? We have 4 half-step supremes on our side. What do you have to fight with us? Song Gongwei, why are you wasting your breath on them? A mere half-step manifestation, realm martial artist. I don't believe he can do anything. Zhu Gongxiong raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully. Zhu Gongxiong, don't say that. Ning Yu can even kill Su Shun and the others. It's best to be careful when dealing with him. Lei Zhuang was still a little afraid of Ning Yu's strength. Haha, Lei Zhuang, I don't agree with you. The last 9 Calder Divine Pavilion half-step supremes, Changde, smiled and said, I think Zhu Gongxiong is right. Su Shun and the others were killed because they were careless. If it were us, we definitely wouldn't have been killed. Don't say any more. The 9 Calder Divine Pavilion is a gathering place for geniuses, not an assassin's nest. We need to discuss this properly and not use force to solve it. Song Gongwei waved his hand and lightly said, Ning Yu, I'll give you one last chance. Open your mind and let me inject a wisp of my soul force into your sea of consciousness. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is. Ning Yu had been listening to Song Gongwei and the others' conversation. After a while, Ning Yu said, Are you done? Not yet. I still want to continue. Song Gongwei acted as if he didn't understand Ning Yu's words and continued. Continue my ass. Ning Yu's eyes turned cold. His figure shot out and rushed towards Song Gongwei. At the same time, Ning Yu shouted at Duan Cheng and the others. You guys take Lu Wei and leave first. I'll stop them. Shua. Duan Cheng and the others didn't dare to be negligent. Hearing Ning Yu's words, they immediately left with Lu Wei. Including Lu Wei, a total of 5 martial artists left. Duan Cheng, Oyanglin, the Silver Winged Dragon, and the Twin Horns Beast. The 4 of them didn't have much combat power. Staying behind would only add to the chaos, and it was impossible for them to be of any use. You want to leave? Seeing that Lu Wei and the others were about to leave, Lei Zhuang and Chang Da's lips curled up slightly as they laughed sinisterly in unison. It's not that easy. Hee hee, you 2 stay behind to deal with the others. Leave those 5 pieces of trash to me. A lewd smile appeared on Zhu Gangxiong's face as he said loudly, I just happen to be lacking a cauldron. In my opinion, using that woman as a cauldron is the best. Ha ha ha, since Gangxiong is so refined, we won't interfere. We'll give them to you. Lei Zhuang and Changde laughed and joined the other side of the battlefield. As for Zhu Gangxiong, he smiled lecherously as he chased after Lu Wei and the others. Dark Emperor, Furball, help me stop them. I'll be right back. Although Ning Yu was fighting with Song Gongwei, he was constantly paying attention to the situation of Lu Wei and the others. Especially when he saw Zhu Gangxiong chase after Lu Wei. Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. He quickly forced Song Gongwei away and tore through the void to disappear. Where are you going? Song Gongwei's eyes shone with a cold light. He clenched his fists and suddenly shot out 2 cold rays. Chi-chi. The cold rays were very fast, and each ray cut through the void and made a hissing sound. On the other hand, Ning Yu didn't even turn his head. It was as if he didn't notice the fist rays coming from behind him. I really don't know how you killed Gu Yuan. How could you be so stupid? What? Song Gongwei seemed to see Ning Yu's miserable state after being hit by the fist rays, and his lips involuntarily curled up. However, halfway through his sentence, Song Gongwei's eyes widened, and his face filled with disbelief. Boom! Boom! This was because Song Gongwei saw 2 figures, one black and one white, quickly cut through the void and blocked the 2 fatal fist rays for Ning Yu. Damn it! Song Gongwei's expression turned ugly when his fist rays were blocked, especially when the ones who blocked the fist rays were not martial artists, but 2 dogs. Song Gongwei couldn't take it anymore. The 2 of you, don't make a move first. Leave these 2 dogs to me. Seeing that Lei Zhuang and Changde were about to make a move, Song Gongwei said in a deep voice, I want to see what these 2 mad dogs are capable of. As soon as he said the word patience, Song Gongwei shot out explosively. His target was the Dark Emperor and Furball. Lei Zhuang and Changde were happy to be idle. They crossed their arms in front of their chests and shifted their gazes to the other side of the battlefield. On the other side, Ningyu is already fighting with Zhu Gongxiong. Ningyu, others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. Zhu Gongxiong's lips curled up as he said coldly, "Today, I will carry out justice on behalf of the heavens and thoroughly kill you." Why do you speak so much nonsense? How can you say things like carrying out justice on behalf of the heavens? Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out a sword wave. Whoosh! A sword wave as thick as a waist shot out in midair and instantly arrived in front of Zhu Gongxiong. Insignificant skill. Facing the sword wave that was constantly attacking him, Zhu Gongxiong waved his sleeves, and a cold radiance instantly flew out. Boom! The cold radiance and the sword wave clashed, creating a loud rumble. After the rumble, Zhu Gongxiong floated in midair, slightly stunned. Zhu Gongxiong discovered that Ningyu had mysteriously disappeared. Trying to hide in front of me? Come out. Zhu Gongxiong's entire body released his aura, which continuously spread in all directions with him as the center. Crack, crack. Zhu Gongxiong was a half-step supremacy martial artist, and his aura was very terrifying. The aura that spread in all directions snapped countless towering trees in half. Zhu Gongxiong's aura continuously increased, but he still did not discover any traces of Ningyu. Not even a shadow could be seen. Where did he go? Zhu Gongxiong was not a fool. He knew that if this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for him. After withdrawing his aura, Zhu Gongxiong frowned slightly and started to use his perception. The perception of a half-step supremacy was still very powerful. So he was hiding here. Zhu Gongxiong had just used his perception when he found Ningyu's location. 5 meters to the west. After discovering Ningyu's location, Zhu Gongxiong said without batting an eyelid, "Ningyu, don't think that I can't find you just because you're hiding well. To tell you the truth, there has never been a half-step manifestation martial artist who could hide from my perception." As Zhu Gongxiong spoke, he walked in the east direction. Zhu Gongxiong's goal was very clear, to make Ningyu careless and lower his guard. 3 more steps. After 3 steps, I will suddenly turn around and attack. Zhu Gongxiong moved his feet, secretly counting the number of steps he took. First step. Zhu Gongxiong's expression did not change at all, and he still looked as calm as before. Second step. Zhu Gongxiong's expression started to change slightly, but he controlled it very well. Third step. Chapter 868. Chapter 868, Divine Might Poof. However, before Zhu Gongxiong could move for long, he heard the sound of a flying sword piercing into his body. Zhu Gongxiong first looked at the blood-red flying sword in front of his chest. Then, he raised his head to look at the familiar figure in front of him. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but before he could say anything, his body fell backwards. "Hongamo, get rid of him as soon as possible." Ningyu's tone was emotionless as he said indifferently, "Chi, Chi." After receiving Ningyu's order, the Hongmo immediately controlled the red demon sword to unleash a violent devouring power. In the blink of an eye, Zhu Gongxiong was completely devoured. Seeing that the Hongmo had devoured Zhu Gongxiong, Ningyu's figure flashed, and he instantly appeared beside the Dark Emperor and Furball. Because Ningyu had acted quickly, it only took him a few minutes to kill and devour Zhu Gongxiong. Thus, the Dark Emperor and Furball were only heavily injured and not killed. Even so, Ningyu's expression was very ugly. "Ningyu, why are you only here now?" The Dark Emperor used his trump card to repel Song Gongwei and complained, "This bastard is very strong. Furball and I are not his match. Go and recuperate first. Leave the rest to me." Ningyu casually threw a storage bag to the Dark Emperor and said. The Dark Emperor caught the storage bag, and after checking the number of crystals inside, he nodded in satisfaction and flew to the other side to recuperate. As for Furball, Ningyu did not hold back either. The storage bag filled with 1 million royal-grade origin crystals was taken away by Furball. What's going on? Zhu Gangxiong. What? The sudden change made Song Gongwei and the others a little dumbfounded. Wasn't Ningyu fighting with Zhu Gangxiong? Why did Ningyu come so quickly? One had to know that Zhu Gangxiong was a half-step supreme being. No matter how weak he was, he should be able to block Ningyu for half an hour or so. However, when Song Gongwei saw a skeleton in the distance, his voice stopped abruptly and he sucked in a breath of cold air. Zhu Gangxiong turned into a skeleton. This discovery gave Song Gongwei a surreal feeling. Song Gongwei could not understand why Zhu Gangxiong, who was in the half-step supremacy realm, would be devoured until only a skeleton remained. It was hard to understand. Gulp. Even Song Gongwei was shocked. One could imagine how Lei Zhuang and Changde were feeling. Zhu Gangxiong's fighting strength was ranked second amongst the four of them. Ningyu had killed Zhu Gangxiong so easily. If he wanted to kill them, wouldn't it be as easy as killing an ant? Don't panic. The reason why Ningyu was able to kill Zhu Gangxiong is because he used all his trump cards. Seeing Lei Zhuang and Changde panic, Song Gongwei said in a low voice, "According to my observations, Ningyu doesn't have much origin energy left. As long as the three of us attack together, killing him will be as easy as blowing off dust. Song Gongwei, you're the strongest. You go first, we'll bring up the rear." Lei Zhuang knew what Song Gongwei was planning. Zhu Gangxiong and Song Gongwei were members of the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion 7th branch, while he and Changde were from the 8th branch. In the 9 Cauldron Divine Pavilion, every branch cherished their high-end fighting strength. Every time they lost a half-step supremacy realm martial artist, they would feel the pain for a long time. Now, Song Gongwei's actions were clearly to make them his pawns and send them to their deaths. Damn it! Song Gongwei cursed inwardly. His feet stepped on the ground, and his body instantly shot forward. At the same time, Song Gongwei shouted out, "All of you go chase after those people that escaped. Everyone related to Ningyu. Do not let a single one of them go." This is great. Lei Zhuang and Changde were overjoyed. They rushed out. Their targets were Lu Wei and Duan Cheng. Solitaire. How could Ningyu allow Lei Zhuang and Changde to leave? Although Lu Wei and the others had left a long time ago, with Lei Zhuang and Changde's speed, they could catch up in a dozen or so minutes. Once Lu Wei was caught, the consequences would be inconceivable. Thus, Ningyu flicked his wrist, sending out several sword waves. Whoosh! In the air, countless sword waves flew out. Half of them attacked Lei Zhuang and Changde, while the other half surrounded Song Gongwei. You want to rely on these sword waves to trap me? How could it be so easy? Song Gongwei's eyes gradually turned blood red. The origin energy in his spiritual sea crazily poured into his wrist as he punched the sword waves in front of him. Bang! Song Gongwei was truly worthy of being a peerless genius of the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion. He used all his strength to disperse the sword wave around him effortlessly. Of course, Song Gongwei's fist light was also completely offset by the sword waves. If Song Gongwei could block the sword waves, then Lei Zhuang and Changde could also block them if they joined forces. Song Gongwei, didn't you say you wanted to stop Ningyu? What the hell is going on? Although he blocked the sword waves, Lei Zhuang and Changde still shouted, "If you don't use your full strength to deal with Ningyu, everyone will die." "You're right, you'll all die." Lei Zhuang and Changde had just finished speaking when a faint voice was transmitted into their ears. Hearing this, Lei Zhuang and Changde were startled. Then they revealed looks of horror. Go! Ningyu didn't care about Lei Zhuang and Changde's reactions. He naturally wouldn't miss out on such a rare opportunity. With a low shout, Ningyu flicked his sleeves. A cold light suddenly flew out from his sleeves. Flower bud. The cold light that flew out from Ningyu's sleeves was the flower bud. For some reason, when Ningyu killed Zhu Gangxiong, the flower bud didn't have the slightest reaction. But just now, the flower bud suddenly erupted with an extremely strong desire to leave Ningyu's body. If not for Ningyu suppressing it, the flower bud's first target would definitely be Song Gongwei. Lei Zhuang and Changde were two people. If they wanted to escape, Ningyu couldn't chase after them. Thus, Ningyu chose to let the flower bud deal with Lei Zhuang and Changda first. Puchi, the flower bud, didn't disappoint Ningyu. Lei Zhuang and Chang didn't even have time to scream before they turned into nothingness. Wang Wang, the flower bud, originally had 6 petals. After swallowing Lei Zhuang and Changda, it seemed like it was going to have 5 petals. There's another one over there. Ningyu pointed at Song Gongwei on the other side and said. Hearing this, Song Gongwei's mouth twitched a few times. What the F***CK is going on? How could a flower bud on a small branch possess such terrifying combat power? Killing a half-step honorable realm martial artist was as easy as chopping vegetables. This was truly effortless. Run! At this moment, there was only one word in Song Gongwei's mind, and that was to run. Song Gongwei didn't have the confidence to go against such a powerful flower bud. In fact, Song Gongwei didn't even have the confidence to last a minute against the flower bud. If he didn't even have the confidence to stay, wouldn't he be courting death? Want to leave? It's not that easy. Flower bud, go. Chapter 869. Besieged. Surrounded. Oh no. Although Song Gongwei was a half-step to honorable realm martial artist and was very fast, the flower bud was faster than him. Song Gongwei had just escaped a dozen meters when his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly wrapped the essence chi in his sea of consciousness around his wrist and threw out a shocking fist radiance. Chi. The result was no surprise. Song Gongwei's fist radiance was at an absolute disadvantage in the confrontation with the flower bud, and it was quickly devoured. 3 flower palm. At the critical moment, Song Gongwei forced out a drop of blood essence and waved his hands continuously. Suddenly, a palm print separated from his palm. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The so-called 3 flower palm, as the name suggested, had a total of 3 palm prints. Song Gongwei did not disappoint. After the palm print separated from his palm, it split into 3. Song Gongwei was more ambitious. 2 of the palm prints were aimed at the flower bud, while the last one was aimed at Ningyu. Song Gongwei's thinking was simple. As long as he could block the flower bud and kill Ningyu, everything would return to normal. Once Ningyu died, the flower bud would lose its power, and he could even pick up a flower bud for free. Dreams were great, but reality was harsh. Song Gongwei's thinking was great, but reality shattered him. The flower bud quickly cut through the void and devoured the 2 palm prints that Song Gongwei had thrown out in an instant. After devouring the palm prints, the flower bud did not turn its head. Instead, it started fighting Song Gongwei. On the other side, Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out several sword radiants. Whoosh! The sword radiance and the palm prints collided. Song Gongwei's palm prints were quickly dispersed. Song Gongwei is indeed skilled. He can actually fight against the flower bud head-on. After dispersing the palm prints, Ningyu turned around and looked at the battle between Song Gongwei and the flower bud. He frowned slightly. After seeing the flower bud kill Lei Zhuang and Changda easily, Ningyu thought that it could at least fight against a Grade 1 human supreme. However, the current situation made Ningyu slightly disappointed. The flower bud's strongest combat power should be between the half-step supremacy realm and the supremacy realm. Ningyu, this flower bud is really too awesome. With it, we can even easily kill a supreme being, right? The Dark Emperor quietly came to Ningyu's side, swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and said, "Why don't you listen to me? In the future, use you as bait, and let's do some get lost." Ningyu kicked the Dark Emperor's butt and said snappily, "Only you can think of such a rotten idea. Hee, let's talk it over." The Dark Emperor did not get angry after being kicked by Ningyu. Instead, he chuckled. "We can discuss it." Ningyu rolled his eyes and said without batting an eyelid, "How about this? You're the purple gold sky devouring hound. As long as we use you as bait, I'm sure many people will come looking for trouble with us. When a flower bud makes its move, won't those troublemakers be devoured by you?" The Dark Emperor was speechless. "After all that, you're using me as bait? I'm the purple gold sky devouring hound. When the time comes, Instead of attracting half-step supremacies and first-grade human supremacies, we might attract many second-grade or even third-grade human supremacies. Although the Dark Emperor had high hopes for the flower bud, seeing how it struggled to deal with Song Gongwei, who was a half-step supremacy realm expert, the Dark Emperor did not believe that the flower bud could deal with a second-grade human supremacy, let alone a third-grade human supremacy. Let's not use me as bait. How about using Redskin as bait? The Dark Emperor glanced at Hong Mo, who was standing beside Ningyu, and said, Redskin is the spiritual body of a royal flying sword. With him as bait, the effect won't be any worse than mine. Scram, I'm giving you face, and you want to go to heaven? Ningyu raised his leg to kick the Dark Emperor and said, You are a genius. Why don't you go to heaven? Don't. We can discuss it. The Dark Emperor easily dodged Ningyu's attack and said loudly, At most, we can use me as bait. Rumble. Just as the Dark Emperor finished his words, the battle on the other side also came to an end. Pucci. The flower bud found an opportunity and used one of its petals to pierce Song Gongwei's heart. Ningyu, you have offended the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. Even if you run to the ends of the world, you will still be killed. Before Song Gongwei died, he used all his strength to roar. If you can repent and surrender, you might still be able to live. Pucci. Before Song Gongwei finished his threat, he spat out another mouthful of blood. At this moment, the peerless genius of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, Song Gongwei, who was a half-step supremacy, died in battle. Wong. Just like Lei Zhuang and Changde, after the flower bud killed Song Gongwei, it directly devoured him and turned him into nothingness. After devouring 3 half-step supremacy realm cultivators, the number of petals on the flower bud finally increased from 6 to 5. Swish! After that, the flower bud turned into an afterimage and went back into Ningyu's sleeve to lie dormant. Luckily, there's a flower bud. Otherwise, we would all be dead. Even now, Hong Mo still had lingering fears. Although he and Ningyu could kill Zhu Gongxiong if they joined forces, killing Song Gongwei would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This was because even 3 Zhu Gongxiong might not be a match for Song Gongwei. Let's go. Since Song Gongwei and the others had already been killed, there was no need for Ningyu to stay here. Waving his hand, Ningyu was the first to fly into the distance. Waving his hand, Ningyu was the first to fly into the distance. Redskin, are we not even going to clean up the battlefield? Looking at Ningyu's back, the Dark Emperor hesitated. Clean up my ass. Song Gongwei and the others can find us. Even if we clean up the battlefield and don't leave any traces, the people of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion will know that we killed Song Gongwei. Hong Mo rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor. Then he stepped on the ground and dashed away. That seems to make a little bit of sense. The Dark Emperor smacked his lips. Then he grabbed Harry Ball and chased after Ningyu. Sha. While Ningyu and the others were rushing forward, not far away, Lu Wei, Duan Cheng, and the others encountered a new problem. At the end of the forest, Duan Cheng, Ouyang Lun, and the others had their backs against each other, forming a semicircle. Lu Wei was in the middle of the semicircle. Her face was slightly pale. Who are you people? Why are you attacking us? Duan Cheng turned around and looked at Lu Wei's pale face. His face turned completely dark. He stared at the dozen martial artists in front of him and said coldly, Why are we attacking you? In front of Duan Cheng, there were a total of 18 martial artists. Apart from the leading martial artist, who was at the half-step supremacy realm, the other 17 martial artists were all at the peak of the manifestation realm. Moreover, their attire was a little special. They did not look like people from the Great Xia Empire. They did not even look like people from the Sky Demon region. Why are we attacking you? You should ask the woman behind you about this. Chapter 870. Just for fun. What? Extreme body. When Duan Cheng and Ouyang Lun heard the words of the half-step Supreme Being Realm Cultivator, their eyes widened with extreme fear. Ouyang Lun, in particular, was extremely shocked. More than 10 years ago, there was an absolute expert who passed by the Great Xia Kingdom. At that time, That peerless expert had described the general appearance of a woman and asked Ouyang Luan to search for her after 10 years. Ouyang Luan kept his word. Some time ago, he had locked onto Lu Wei according to the description of the peerless powerhouse. However, due to Ning Yu's various obstructions, the plan was ultimately put on hold. As for the crystal ball that the peerless master had left for Ouyang Luan had always kept it with him and had never mentioned it to Ning Yu. How could Ouyang Luan not be shocked when a half-step supremacy realm martial artist said that Lu Wei had an extreme body? Shocked, Ouyang Luan took out the crystal ball from his bosom. Sound transmission ball. Ouyang Luan had just taken out the crystal ball when the half-step supremacy realm martial artist's expression changed drastically. He exclaimed in shock, "How could you possibly have the 6 Moon Supremacy's sound transmission ball? 6 Moons Venerable?" Ouyang Luan was slightly taken aback and said, "I don't know who 6 Moons Venerable is." "Humph, you're about to die, yet you still dare to quibble. Since you don't know, I will tell you. Listen carefully." The half-step supreme martial artist said coldly, 6 Moons Venerable is an elder of our Sacred Heaven sect. He was a 6th grade human supreme more than 10 years ago. Hiss! Ouyang Luan could not help but gasp. 6th grade human supreme martial artist. Furthermore, he was a 6th grade human supreme martial artist more than 10 years ago. Didn't that mean that the 6 Moons Venerable's cultivation was at least at the 7th or 8th grade sovereign realm? Hand over the voice transmission ball. Don't make me say the same thing twice. The half-step supremacy realm martial artist stretched out his hand and said calmly. Ouyang Luan's eyes flickered indeterminately. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "Do you think I'm a fool? If I give you the voice transmission ball, you'll definitely break it. When 6 Moon Venerable arrives, how are we going to survive?" After much consideration, Ouyang Luan still chose to stand on the same boat as Ning Yu. The more Ouyang Luan interacted with Ning Yu, the more he felt that Ning Yu was terrifying. Ouyang Luan would have definitely chosen Ning Yu even without the heavenly Tao oath. Good, very good, very good. The half-step supreme being's face darkened completely as he said coldly, "Among all the manifestation realm cultivators that I have met, you are one of the more arrogant ones. Maybe you haven't seen me fight before, so you don't know my true strength." Yin Yi pondered for a moment, then continued. "When I was at the peak of the manifestation realm, I fought against a grade 1 human sovereign. When I advanced to the half-step sovereign realm, I encountered a grade 2 human sovereign and 3 grade 1 human sovereigns. Guess what happened? After a fierce battle, the 3 first-grade human supremes all died in battle, and the 2nd-grade human supremes also fled." Pucci. As soon as Yin Yi finished speaking, a peak manifestation realm cultivator behind him couldn't help but laugh out loud. Others might not know that Yin Yi was bragging, but the 17 cultivators that came with Yin Yi knew exactly what happened. When Yin Yi advanced to the half-step sovereign realm, there were indeed 4 cultivators surrounding him. 3 of them were grade 1 human sovereigns, and 1 was grade 2 human sovereign. However, the 4 cultivators surrounding him were all heavily injured. His true battle strength was only about 10%. Otherwise, with Yin Yi's strength, he would have long been dead. How could he still be acting cool here? One must know that in the Sacred Heaven sect, Yin Yi's strength could only be ranked in the lower middle among all the half-step sovereign realm cultivators. Courting death, Yin Yi was happily acting cool, but his own people came out to mess things up. How could Yin Yi tolerate this? As soon as he finished speaking, Yin Yi disappeared instantly. Smack! In the next moment, a crisp sound rang out. The peak manifestation realm cultivator, who couldn't help but laugh, just now had 5 bright red palm prints on his face. Disobeying orders, go to the disciplinary hall to receive. Yin Yi said coldly. There's no need to go to the disciplinary hall. Just do it here. An indifferent voice interrupted Yin Yi's words. Who? Yin Yi's expression changed slightly as he hurriedly turned to look. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures approached from afar and landed in the area in the blink of an eye. Ning Yu, the Dark Emperor, and the Red Devil. On the Dark Emperor's back, there was a white puppy lying on it, looking charmingly naive. Half-step manifestation realm. Feeling the aura emanating from Ningyu, Yin Yi was stunned at first, then he laughed maniacally. I was wondering which peerless expert it was. So, it's just a half-step manifestation realm cultivator. What's wrong with the people of the Great Xia Kingdom? All of them are extremely arrogant, as if they're all geniuses that only appear once in 10,000 years. As he spoke, Yin Yi revealed a puzzled expression and said exaggeratedly, "Tell me, what do I have to do for you to let them go?" At the start, Ningyu wanted to start a massacre. However, when he saw Lu Wei's pale face and trembling body, Ningyu could only choose to settle things peacefully. After all, Lu Wei had an extreme body. Once it exploded, the consequences would be unimaginable. Oh, it seems like you also know that Lu Wei has an extreme body. Yin Yi rolled his eyes and said sinisterly, "Since that's the case, things will be much easier. Open up your mind and let my soul power enter your consciousness. Once I control you completely, I'll naturally let Lu Wei go." "All right, I promise you," Ningyu said without hesitation. No. Upon hearing Ningyu's words, everyone, including the Red Devil, the Dark Emperor, and even Duan Sheng and Ouyanglan, objected. As the silver-winged dragon and the twin-horned beast had already isolated all sounds around Lu Wei could only see the situation in front of her and could not hear anything. "I know what I'm doing." Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for the Red Devil and the rest not to worry. Thereafter, Ningyu walked towards Yin Yi step by step. Ningyu walked very slowly. As he advanced, Ningyu's mind spun, and he quickly thought of a countermeasure. Yin Yi wanted to control Ningyu, but how could Ningyu not want to control Yin Yi? As long as he could control the leaders of both sides, everything would become very simple. 10 steps, 9 steps. As Ningyu advanced, Yin Yi was secretly counting the distance. 3 steps do it. When Ningyu was only 3 steps away from Yin Yi's eyes turned cold. He stomped on the ground and rushed out. Sha. Seeing that Yin Yi had made his move, Duan Sheng and Ouyanglan hurriedly moved to block Lu Wei's eyes. Duan Sheng and Ouyanglan had some understanding of the extreme body and knew that the emotions of the extreme body could not fluctuate too much. Otherwise, there was a high chance of an explosion. "Brat, do you think I want to control trash? I only asked you to come over to have some fun." Ha ha ha. Yin Yi clenched his right fist and punched towards Ningyu's heart. Chapter 871. Devour them all. Chapter 871. Devour. Since you want to play, I'll play with you. Ningyu's eyes turned cold. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out as well. On the surface of the fist, a violent fluctuation of yuan qi appeared. Yin Yi's heart trembled slightly when he felt the energy contained in Ningyu's fist. He was slightly shocked. From Yin Yi's point of view, Ningyu was only a half-step manifestation realm warrior. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't be that strong. In fact, Yin Yi felt that he didn't even need to use his full strength to kill Ningyu. "I have to use my full strength." At this moment, Yin Yi changed his view of Ningyu. The energy in his sea of consciousness surged out again and wrapped around his fist. He threw a backhand punch that couldn't be avoided and collided with Ningyu's fist. Swoosh! Swoosh! After the fists collided, the two figures rapidly retreated. Yin Yi had to retreat more than 10 steps before he could stabilize himself. On the other hand, Ningyu only managed to stabilize himself after taking 3 steps back. The difference between the two was obvious. Whoosh! Yin Yi's move put him at a disadvantage. The expressions of the 17 peak manifestation realm warriors that he had brought along also changed drastically. Although the 17 peak manifestation realm warriors knew that Yin Yi was just putting on an act, Yin Yi's true strength was still very strong. Yin Yi, who was a half-step supremacy realm warrior, was infinitely close to a first-grade human supremacy. How could they not be shocked that the skinny man opposite them was able to gain the upper hand against Yin Yi? Very good. However, the one who was the most shocked was Yin Yi. Yin Yi never expected that he, a mid-tier genius of the Sacred Heaven sect, would be evenly matched with Ningyu. In fact, he was even at a slight disadvantage. You've completely infuriated me. I'm going to tear you apart. And he clenched his fists tightly and charged forward once again. This time, Yin was enraged. He swore that he would tear Ningyu apart and let Ningyu see what true strength was. Ningyu could not be bothered to waste his breath on Yin. He immediately drew out the red demon sword and slashed out several sword ripples. Without the red demon, the power of the red demon sword would be greatly reduced. Yin easily blocked the sword wave that Ningyu had sent out. Then, he began fighting Ningyu in midair. The battle between Yin, and Ning caused the 17 martial artists at the peak of the manifestation realm that Yin, had brought to burst into an uproar. What's going on? How can the Great Xia Kingdom have such an absolute prodigy? That's right. I also find it a little strange. Logically speaking, even the strongest martial artist in the Great Xia Kingdom shouldn't be this powerful. I suspect that martial artist is definitely not someone from the Great Xia Kingdom. I don't care if he is from the Great Xia Kingdom. We better hurry up and capture the extreme Yin physique, or else Yin will be infuriated. That's right, let's go and catch the extreme Yin body. The martial artist who was the most enthusiastic was the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm who was reprimanded by Yin. He wanted to perform well, so that he could ask Yin for mercy and see if he could avoid going to the disciplinary hall. Swoosh! However, not long after the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm dashed out, a ray of cold light shot down from the sky. Flower Bud? Seeing the true face of the cold light, the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm was slightly stunned. Puffed. However, it was this short moment of stupor that became the martial artist at the peak of the creation realm's final song in the Great Xia Kingdom. Without a doubt, the flower bud swallowed him in an instant, leaving nothing behind. Whoosh! The flower bud swallowed a martial artist at the peak of the creation realm in an instant, causing the expressions of the other 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm to change drastically. Everyone, let's attack together. I'm still not. Puffed. A bold martial artist at the peak of the creation realm said in a deep voice. However, no matter how bold he was, it was useless in front of the flower bud. After swallowing the first martial artist at the peak of the creation realm, the flower bud did not even stop and immediately began its second devouring journey. Ah, ah, ah. Various screams rose and fell, continuously assaulting the vision and hearing of Duan Cheng and the others. It was too brutal. Those were all martial artists at the peak of the creation realm. They were actually devoured just like that. Duan Cheng and Ouyang Luan had goosebumps all over their bodies. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. Swoosh! 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm. 3 minutes. The flower bud spent 3 minutes to completely devour the 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm. After devouring the martial artists at the peak of the creation realm, the flower bud made a turn in the air and once again returned to Ningyu's side. Hee, have you lost your mind? Why did you bring out this lousy flower bud to fight with me? Do you think it can be the key to our victory? Yin sneered. I'm not sure if it can decide our victory or defeat. However, I know that none of the 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm that you brought were spared. All of them have become food for the flower bud. Ningyu shrugged and said indifferently, Humph, who doesn't know how to boast? The martial artists I brought are all exceptional geniuses of the Sacred Heaven sect. A mere flower bud dares to dream of. What? Yin snorted coldly and could not help but look down. This glance caused Yin to be stunned on the spot. Yin realized that the 10 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm that he brought had all disappeared. Baffling. What the hell? At this moment, these words appeared in Yin Yi's mind. They were all fine just now. Why did they disappear in the blink of an eye? Yin unleashed his perception, hoping to find some clues. Stop looking. The matter is already very clear. The 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm that you brought were all killed and devoured by the flower bud. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating for Yin not to waste his energy. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Up until now, Yeni still could not believe it. 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm were devoured and killed by an unknown flower bud, just like that. If this matter were to spread, others would definitely think that he had lost his mind. Spatial artifact. Yes, it's a spatial artifact. Suddenly, Yeni seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "The flower bud in your hand must be a spatial artifact. Moreover, it's the kind that can store people. If you know what's good for you, then throw the flower bud over. Otherwise, I'll make sure you suffer the consequences." "You want the flower bud?" Ningyu raised his brows and said calmly, "Since you want it, I'll give it to you." As he spoke, Ningyu flicked his wrist and threw the flower bud to Yeni. After devouring 17 martial artists at the peak of the creation realm, Ningyu faintly realized that the fifth petal on the flower bud had an urge to disappear. In other words, as long as the flower bud could devour Yeni, it would definitely disappear completely. Ningyu was looking forward to what would happen after the petals on the flower bud completely disappeared. One had to know that every time the flower bud transformed, its combat strength would increase exponentially. Once all 5 petals disappeared, one could imagine how terrifying the flower bud would be at that time. Chapter 872. Chapter 872. Sacred Heaven Sect Humph. Throwing the flower bud over so easily. There's definitely something fishy going on. He snorted coldly, then waved his hands repeatedly. Instantly, a cold gleam flew out from his sleeves. "Stop!" Yeni bellowed, hoping that the cold gleam could block the flower bud in midair. TSK, TSK. However, there was always a huge difference between ideal and reality. The moment the cold gleam that He shot out touched the flower bud, it was completely devoured. Not a single ripple was stirred up. "What?" Yeni's expression changed drastically. Yeni was very confident in the cold gleam that he threw out. Even a peak manifestation realm martial artist might not be able to gain the upper hand against it. However, the reality was that the cold gleam was devoured by the flower bud in an instant. At this moment, Yeni finally felt a little nervous. It seemed like what Ningyu said earlier was most likely true. "Want to devour me?" It's not that easy. Although he had guessed a certain possibility, he did not want to resign himself to death. First of all, his cultivation was not at the peak of the manifestation realm, but a genuine half-step supreme being. Secondly, his strength was much stronger than a peak manifestation realm martial artist. Slash! At the critical moment, He took out a purple flying sword from his chest. The flying sword was about 3 feet long, and it contained a violent fluctuation of vital energy. He held the flying sword and slashed down from the sky. Crack! However, he had still underestimated the flower bud's strength. His king-rank middle-grade flying sword broke into 2 halves in an instant. Such a change was clearly not what he had expected. Damn it, he was not that kind of stubborn person. After his king-rank middle-grade flying sword broke, he cursed and directly tore through the void, wanting to leave. Bang! In the eyes of the flower bud, he was delicious. How could it let him go? Therefore, he had just tore through the void, and before he could escape, he was struck in the chest by the flower bud, his body flying several feet away. Hold on, I have something to ask him. Seeing that the flower bud wanted to devour Ningyu hurriedly flew to the side of the flower bud, blocking it. Buzz! The flower bud was obviously displeased to be stopped by Ningyu. It began to sway rapidly in the air. All right, the 1 million royal grade origin crystals in the spatial ring are all yours. For the sake of appeasing the flower bud, Ningyu had no choice but to give up the remaining 1 million king grade origin crystals in his spatial ring. Shio! The flower bud seemed to have a mind of its own as it burrowed directly into the storage ring and went into hibernation. What's your relationship with Du Feng and the rest? Ningyu sorted out his thoughts and asked. Du Feng is from the ice domain. Are you also from the ice domain? Duan Cheng and Ouyang Lin knew that He came from Ice Domain's Sacred Heaven sect, but Ningyu didn't. Don't even think of getting any information out of me, Yin Yi said coldly. You have to think this through. The 17 martial artists at the peak of the fate realm that you brought with you have already been devoured by the flower bud. If you continue to be stubborn, you will definitely end up like them, Ningyu said calmly. If I tell you, will you let me go? Yin Yi was originally prepared to die, but he changed his mind after hearing Ningyu's words. Yin Yi rolled his eyes and said, I am indeed from the ice domain. Furthermore, I'm from the most powerful sect in the ice domain, the Sacred Heaven Sect. Lu Wei is the person that the Sacred Heaven Sect's sect master personally ordered to find. I advise you not to get involved in this matter. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Ice Domain, Sacred Heaven Sect. Hearing this, Ningyu couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Ice Domain was different from the Sky Demon Domain. The Sky Demon Domain didn't have Overlord-level sects, but the Ice Domain did. The Sacred Heaven Sect was an Overlord-level sect in the Ice Domain. The Sacred Heaven Sect could be called the most powerful sect in the Ice Domain. No other sect could shake its Overlord status. It's good that you know. If you know what's good for you, let me go as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Sacred Heaven Sect. All right, your friend has a sound transmission ball. Yin Yi originally wanted to use the Sacred Heaven Sect to scare Ningyu. However, after thinking about it, Yin Yi felt that it was more practical to use the thing in front of him. Yin Yi pointed at Ouyang Luan and said, that sound transmission ball belongs to Supremacy Lu Moons. Supremacy Lu Moons is a 6th grade supreme martial artist. I believe that Supremacy Lu Moons will definitely rush over in 10 minutes. Sound transmission ball? Ningyu frowned slightly. That's right. It's a sound transmission ball. Yin Yi said, if you let me go, I can put in a good word for you in front of Supremacy Lu Moons. At that time, you might even have the chance to join the Sacred Heaven Sect. Aren't you forgetting something? Ningyu looked at the crystal ball in Ouyang Luan's hand and hesitated for a moment. I've seen quite a few sound transmission balls in the past. I've also heard a little about their usage. The so-called sound transmission ball can only be broken by the other party. You said that Supremacy Lu Moons will be here in 10 minutes. What are your intentions? Swish. Yin Yi thought that he had already done a good job pretending, but he didn't know that he was displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Ningyu knew how to use the sound transmission ball. Don't bother with those empty words. You just need to tell me if there are still people from the Sacred Heaven Sect in the Great Xia Kingdom, Ningyu said in a low voice. Definitely, Yin Yi said without hesitation. Aside from us and Du Feng, there is still a large number of Sacred Heaven Sect martial artists on their way. The sect master has already sent out the Sacred Heaven Order. Whoever can bring the extreme Yin body back to the ice region in one piece will obtain a position as a core disciple. According to my estimates, there are at least a few hundred martial artists coming from the ice region. Although Yin Yi was exaggerating a little, it was not a big deal. There were indeed quite a number of people from the Sacred Heaven Sect coming to the Great Xia Kingdom. Even if there weren't a few hundred, there were at least a few dozen. So many people? Ningyu frowned and fell into deep thought. If it was really as Yin Yi said, then the situation would become more and more dangerous. Blood God Palace, Corpse Sect, 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion. These 3 forces all had a grudge against Ningyu. Adding on the Supreme 9 Purities Temple and the Ice Region's Sacred Heaven Sect, Ningyu felt that his strength was no longer enough. He had to rush to the creation realm. Now, Yin Yi had been paying attention to Ningyu. While Ningyu was thinking, Yin Yi took the opportunity and punched with all his strength. TSK, TSK. Yin Yi's fist was very fast. It even made a hissing sound as it rubbed against the air. Furthermore, in order to kill Ningyu in one move, Yin Yi didn't even hesitate to burn his essence blood to increase the power of his fist. Life and death depended on this move. Brat, to be able to die in my hands. Consider it your good fortune from your previous life. Yin Yi seemed to be able to see Ningyu's tragic death and couldn't help but laugh maniacally. Is that so? Ningyu's reaction to Yin Yi's actions was very indifferent. He raised his brows and crossed his arms in front of his chest. You think I'm not prepared? Swish. Chapter 873. Initial Stage of the Manifestation Realm. Chapter 873. Initial Stage of the Manifestation Realm. What? Yin Yi's expression changed drastically when he saw the flower bud attacking him. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. To be honest, Yin Yi didn't expect Ningyu to react in time. He had launched a sneak attack. If Ningyu could notice his sneak attack, didn't that mean that Ningyu had been guarding against him all along? Yin Yi quickly retracted his fist and turned to run. He wasn't the flower bud's match for the first time. If he continued to fight like a fool, he would only be devoured mercilessly. Yin Yi wasn't a fool. If he couldn't win, he should run. Yin Yi knew this principle. However, it was too late for Yin Yi to escape now. The flower bud cut through the air and arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. It entered his body through his heart. Yin Yi felt a tearing pain in his heart. He wanted to say something, but spat out a mouthful of blood instead. His body trembled uncontrollably. I gave you a chance to live, but you didn't know how to cherish it. Ningyu came to Yin Yi's side and said plainly, since that's the case, you should go and accompany your friends. TSK, TSK. The flower bud seemed to understand Ningyu's words and devoured Yin Yi in an instant. Yin Yi couldn't understand how a half-step manifestation realm warrior from the Great Xia Kingdom could have such terrifying combat power. It was a pity that Yin Yi would never be able to find the answer for the rest of his life. Ice Region, Sacred Heaven Gate. After the flower bud devoured Yin Yi, Ningyu frowned and murmured. Although the divine heaven sect was far away from the Sky Demon region, it was extremely powerful. A force like the Blood God Palace would never be able to catch up. Rumble. Just as Ningyu was having a headache over the Sacred Heaven Gate, an earth-shattering rumble came from the flower bud. What's going on? The sudden change made Ningyu's expression change. He hurriedly shifted his gaze to the flower bud. This caused Ningyu's mouth to open slightly, and his face was filled with confusion. In midair, the fifth petal on the flower bud had completely disappeared. The disappearance of the fifth petal was not what shocked Ningyu the most. What shocked Ningyu the most was that the other four petals on the flower bud disappeared at the same time. The complete disappearance of the petals also meant that the flower bud no longer existed. Gulp. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, Ningyu was dumbfounded. The flower bud had disappeared. The flower bud was his strongest trump card. If the flower bud disappeared, his battle prowess would drop by at least 50%. In the past, he could easily kill a half-step honorable realm martial artist by relying on the flower bud. Now that the flower bud had disappeared, it would be difficult for him to even contend against a half-step supremacy realm martial artist like Yin Yi, let alone kill him. Bang! As soon as Ningyu swallowed, he noticed that the branch of the world tree had changed a lot. At the top of the branch, there was actually a sprout. The flower bud disappeared, and the sprout appeared. Could this small branch of the world tree be the core of the world tree? Ningyu's eyeballs moved, and he thought of this possibility almost instantly. Generally speaking, something like a withered tree coming back to life was very rare. Since this branch could produce a flower bud and sprout, it was enough to show that this branch was very special. At the very least, it was the main path of the world tree. At the thought of this, Ningyu revealed a joyous expression. Perhaps this sprout before him could really grow into a world tree. Swoosh! While Ningyu was still rejoicing in his heart, the sprout suddenly shot out a huge energy light pillar. The energy light pillar flew directly towards Ningyu. Looking at the energy light pillar flying towards him continuously, Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva again. The sprout could actually give feedback. In the past, Ningyu's cultivation had broken through time and time again from the feedback of the flower bud. Now that the sprout's feedback of energy was extremely rich, Ningyu decided on the spot to break through to the creation realm. Hong Fiend, you guys stay away for now. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. He immediately sat down cross-legged and circulated the spirit transformation technique to absorb the energy from the sprout, while instructing Hong Fiend and the rest to leave first. Let's go. Hong Fiend seemed to have guessed that Ningyu was going to break through to the creation realm. After saying that, he quickly left. Duan Cheng and the rest also left hurriedly. They were not fools. Once Ningyu advanced to the creation realm, that kind of aura would definitely be very powerful. If they were close, it would not be good if they were affected. Devour. Ningyu automatically shielded himself from the outside world's interference. His soul power entered his consciousness and controlled the golden core to devour the terrifying energy that the sprout fed back. Although it was called energy, it was not. It was best described as holy energy. After the flower bud turned into a sprout, the speed at which it absorbed holy energy was obviously much faster. However, the speed at which the sprout absorbed and devoured holy energy was exactly the same, so it was still unable to leave any holy energy for Ningyu. Therefore, Ningyu especially cherished this huge pillar of energy. Pissed. In Ningyu's consciousness, the huge golden core kept devouring the energy. Almost every minute that passed, the energy fed back by the sprout decreased a little. About an hour later, swoosh. Ningyu stood up with a swoosh. His early-stage grade 7 soul power also entered his consciousness, cooperating with the golden core to devour the energy. Time passed by minute. Ningyu was not anxious, but the Dark Emperor on the other side was very anxious. Hong Fiend, what are the chances of Ningyu advancing to the creation realm? What are the chances? Of course, it's 100%. Hong Fiend rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor and said, 100%? I don't believe it. Ningyu doesn't have a creation elixir, so how can he advance to the creation realm? I heard that humans have to have a creation elixir to advance to the creation realm. The Dark Emperor pursed his lips and said, rumble. However, just as the Dark Emperor pursed his lips, he was stunned on the spot. An extremely terrifying aura shot into the sky. Sensing the terrifying aura that shot into the distance, the Dark Emperor could not help but gasp. Damn it, it's too terrifying. Are you sure that Ningyu has only advanced to the creation realm? Duan Cheng and Ouyang Luan could not believe their senses. How is this advancing to the creation realm? Even a half-step supremacy martial artist would not be able to catch up to this aura, right? It's indeed the creation realm, and it's only early-stage creation realm. Hong Fiend's senses were very strong. He could clearly tell that Ningyu is only early-stage creation realm and not half-step supremacy. Ningyu has advanced to the creation realm. The silver-winged dragon had already removed the seal on Lu Wei's hearing, so Lu Wei could hear Hong Fiend and the rest conversation. It could be said that other than not knowing that she had the extreming body, Lu Wei knew everything else. Phew, Ningyu did not know that Lu Wei and the rest were shocked. At this moment, Ningyu let out a long breath and muttered to himself while staring at the mystic moon jade pendant in his hand. Chapter 874. Check them one by one. Chapter 874. Ever since he got the mystic moon jade pendant from Lu Durong, Ningyu kept it with him and did not pass it to Lu Wei. The reason why Ningyu did not pass the mystic moon jade pendant to Lu Wei immediately was not because Ningyu wanted to keep it for himself, but because Ningyu realized that the seal on the mystic moon jade pendant had loosened. The mystic moon jade pendant in this state could be easily discovered by those who were observant. Rather than leaving it with Lu Wei, it was better for Ningyu to keep it with him. This way, he could slightly suppress the aura of the mystic moon jade pendant. Now that he had advanced to the manifestation realm, all the problems would be solved. Seal it for me. Ningyu waved his hands continuously. In a split second, numerous cold rays flew out and entered the mystic moon jade pendant. Swoosh! Not only that, Ningyu also released his grade 7 beginner soul power and wrapped it around the surface of the mystic moon jade pendant. Drip! Drip! In order to completely conceal the aura of the mystic moon jade pendant, Ningyu was extremely focused. He did not even have the time to wipe the sweat on his forehead. Time passed by minute. In the blink of an eye, another half an hour had passed. Fortunately, the seal has only loosened and not completely dissipated. Otherwise, even if I advanced to the manifestation realm, it would be difficult to conceal the aura of the mystic moon jade pendant in such a short period of time. Looking at the mystic moon jade pendant that had its aura concealed, Ningyu wiped the sweat on his forehead. Since the problem of the mystic moon jade pendant had been solved, there was no need for Ningyu to carry it with him. Swoosh! In a flash, Ningyu arrived beside Lu Wei. Wear this. Ningyu passed the mystic moon jade pendant to Lu Wei and said. After receiving the jade pendant, Lu Wei wore it around her neck without asking why. Let's go to Tianxian City. Seeing Lu Wei put on the mysterious moon jade pendant, Ningyu waved his hand and took the lead to fly towards mysterious Sky City. Seeing Ningyu set off, the Dark Emperor and the others were first stunned, and then they chased after him. To be honest, the Dark Emperor and the others all knew that Lu Wei had the extreming body, and also knew that the emotions of the extreming body could not fluctuate too much, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. In the eyes of the Dark Emperor and the others, the best way was to let Lu Wei enter the storage ring. This was the best way to solve the problem. Of course, all of this was built on the premise that the Dark Emperor and the others didn't know about the mystic moon jade pendant. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't have such thoughts in their hearts. Tianxian City. The turmoil among the four big families in Tianxian City ended with the victory of the Ning family. The Ning family had also become the well-deserved overlord of Tianxian City. Under the leadership of the Ning family, Tianxian City was thriving, and there were very few cases of stealing. However, recently, the Ning family might have encountered some unforeseen event, and the members of the family were always frowning and dejected. Even the acting patriarch of the Ning family, Ning Tang, rarely showed his face in Tianxian City. Bang! At this time, in a certain room of the Ning family, the acting patriarch of the Ning family, Ning Tang, slapped the chair beneath him and said coldly, "They are really too much to actually ground us. Grand Elder, why don't I think of a way to leave the Ning family and go to the capital to look for Ningyu?" In the room, other than Ning Tang, there were 4 other martial artists. The geniuses of the Ning family, Ning Xian, Ning Xian, Ning Hu, and the Ning family's patriarch, Ning He. At this time, Ning Xian said in a deep voice, "I heard from that mysterious person that Ningyu is very strong, and is a top genius even in Danwu College." Top genius? What's the use of a top genius? Ning Tang said angrily. Do you know what the cultivation level of that mysterious person is? What cultivation level? Ning Xian asked doubtfully. Creation realm. Ning Tang said. Even a creation realm martial artist was easily defeated. Do you think that Ningyu can help us if he rushes back? In my opinion, it's best that Ningyu doesn't come back, or else the last descendant of the Ning family will be controlled. But Ningyu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he was attracted by the sound of a door being broken. Bang! Outside the door, a young man about 20 years old kicked the door open and swaggered in. Who is the patriarch of the Ning family? The young man did not beat around the bush. After entering the room, he said directly, I give you 5 minutes to gather all the members of the Ning family between 15 and 25 years old in the martial arts arena. If even one is missing, you should know the consequences. With that, the young man left the room on his own. 5 minutes later, in the Ning family's martial arts arena, the younger generation of martial artists stood in one area, and the rest of the martial artists stood in another area. In the middle of the martial arts arena, there were 3 martial artists sitting on the round table, staring at the martial artists on the round table. Except for a few brave ones, the rest of the Ning family were trembling. Ahem! One of the martial artists on the round table coughed twice and said in a clear voice, Don't panic. We mean no harm. We are only here to find one person. As long as you cooperate when we find that person, we will give the Ning family the best cultivation resources, the best. Zhanggu, don't waste time. Hurry up and start. Before the martial artist finished speaking, another young martial artist on the round table waved his hand and said impatiently, All right. The martial artist called Zhanggu took out a crystal ball and said loudly, All the martial artists between 15 and 25 years old come up one by one and force a drop of blood to drip on the crystal ball. As long as the crystal ball shines, we will leave. You, the first one. Zhang Gu's eyes fell on the nearest martial artist, Ning Guang, the genius of the Ning family's younger generation, 15 years old. Ning Guang came to the round table and carefully forced a drop of blood to drip on the crystal ball. Not qualified. 3 seconds later, seeing that the crystal ball was still intact, Zhang Gu said in a deep voice, "Next." While Zhang Gu was testing slowly, the other two martial artists began to talk. "Guan, are you sure the person we're looking for is in the Ning family?" One of the two martial artists, who was slightly older, said, "I'm sure. That bastard must be in the Ning family." Guan dared to show his impatience to Zhang Gu, but to Lu Qiong, he could only smile. In the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, Lu Qiong was in the early stage of the Fate Realm. She was ranked 4th on the genius list. As for him, although his cultivation was similar to Lu Qiong's, there was a huge difference in their strength. On the genius list, he could only rank around 20. Zhang Gu's cultivation was even lower, half a step into the Fate Realm. He was ranked 50th on the Supreme Nine Purities Temple's genius list. "What's the use of your guarantee?" Lu Qiong said in a deep voice. "This time, we are not the only ones who came to the Great Xia Kingdom. Even Yinhua, who is ranked 3rd on the genius list, came to the Great Xia Kingdom. If Yinhua finds that bastard first, you should know the consequences better than me. I know this, but Yinhua has something wrong with his brain. He actually didn't look in the Ning family, but went to the Magic Beast Mountain Range." Chapter 875. Arrive in time. Be that as it may, we still have to be prepared. If we can't find that little bastard in the Ning family, we'll have to immediately head to the mountain range of magical beasts. Lu Qiong was not as brainless as Guan. He was more rational. "That's right. We have to be prepared." Guan first agreed with Lu Qiong before he turned around and scolded, "Zhang Gu, hurry up and finish the examination within 10 minutes. Hearing this, Zhang Gu's eyebrows slightly furrowed, his face revealing a displeased expression. However, Zhang Gu's back was facing Guan, so Guan did not notice. "Humph! With so many people here, how can we finish the inspection in 10 minutes? Zhang Gu snorted inwardly, but on the surface, he said in a clear voice, "One person is too slow. Let's do it together." Whoosh! Whoosh! The two peerless geniuses of the Ning family came to the round platform and forced a drop of blood onto the crystal ball. As expected, the crystal ball was safe and sound. Time was ticking away. As time went by, Lu Qiong's expression became colder and colder. Glancing at the remaining 10 or so young martial artists, Lu Qiong said in a low voice, "Looks like that bastard isn't in the Ning family." Hua! Wei Guan heard Lu Qiong's words and saw Lu Qiong's facial expression. His heart skipped a beat. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. Guan was very smart. In order to prevent Lu Qiong from getting angry, he jumped to Ning He's side. "Pa!" Guan slapped Ning He on the cheek and said coldly, "Olbi Astrastarred, tell me, is there anyone who hasn't come yet?" Puff! Although Ning He had advanced to the origin core stage with Ouyang Luan's help, he still had no room to fight back when facing Guan, who was at the initial stage of the creation stage. Spitting out blood and teeth, Ning He said, "All the members of the Ning family are here. No one is missing." Humph! You're about to die, yet you're still so stubborn. Guan didn't believe that everyone from the Ning family was here. As far as he knew, the so-called genius of the Ning family, Ning Yu, was not here. "If I don't see Ning Yu in 3 minutes, you'll be dead." Guan's expression was indifferent and his tone was cold. Ning Yu turned his head away and chose not to speak. "Oh, you're pretty tough, huh? Since that's the case, let me loosen your old bones." Ning He's reaction made Guan very unhappy. He raised the corner of his mouth and immediately punched Ning He's chest. Bang! The huge force that came from his chest caused Ning He to fly several feet away and directly fall at the entrance of the martial arts practice field. "I'm done." At this moment, Zhang Gu's voice came from the round platform. "There's no one who fits." Kaka. Originally, Guan was very dissatisfied with Ning He. Now, hearing Zhang Gu's words, he was even more furious. He stamped his feet on the ground and rushed out. "Old fart. I'll let you know the consequences of offending me. Higuan was furious. He was furious to the extreme. It didn't matter if they couldn't find him. The key was to embarrass him in front of Lu Qiong. Lu Qiong was a genius ranked 4th in the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Not only was she powerful, but she also had a powerful background. If he offended Lu Qiong, he would have a hard time in the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Old ancestor run. Seeing Higuan rush out, Ning Tang, the great elder of the Ning family, hurriedly moved and stood in front of Higuan. Get lost! The enraged Higuan kicked Ning Tang's body, causing him to pass out. After kicking Ning Tang away, Higuan's figure quickly cut through the void and came to Ning He's side in the blink of an eye. I didn't want to kill you, but it's a pity that you dissatisfied me again and again. I have to grind your bones and scatter your ashes. Higuan didn't attack immediately. Instead, he slightly tidied up his clothes and said lightly, after you go to hell, learn to be smart. You'd better not resist when people who are stronger than you ask you to do something. Otherwise, you'll die an ugly death. Pooh! You can only jump around in Tianxin City. There are many people in the Heavenly Devil territory who are more powerful than you. Why don't you find trouble with them? Ningyi spat out a mouthful of saliva and said coldly, Ha ha! I, Higuan, like to bully people who are weaker than me. What do you do to me? Higuan looked up to the sky and laughed. He can't do anything to you, but I don't know what I can do to you. After Higuan laughed, an indifferent voice came from a distance. Rustle. Immediately, several figures appeared in Higuan's line of sight. Who do you think you're to talk to me like this? At this time, there were still people who dared to mock Higuan, which made Higuan very angry and unhappy. Swoosh! As Higuan's gloomy words fell, he clenched his right hand into a fist and blasted the thin figure standing beside Ning, he with a violent Yuan Qi gale. Crack! Next, a crisp sound rang out. Then, like a kite with a broken string, Higuan's body retreated several feet away. Boom! The sudden change made the warriors in the entire martial arts practice field change their faces. They all looked at the teenager beside Ning He in shock. Gulp! After a short period of shock, someone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Ningyu, when did he become so strong? Ning Xian's mouth was slightly open, his face full of disbelief. Could it be that Brother Ning Yu's cultivation has reached the manifestation stage? Ning Xian's mouth was a little dry. Even after saying this, he himself felt very shocked. In any case, Brother Ning Yu is back. We will definitely be saved. Ning Hu, who is simple and honest, scratched his head and said, Ah. The discussion in his ears made Higuan's face turn red, and he let out a hysterical roar. Ningyu, your name is Ningyu. How dare you cripple my right hand? I will tear you apart. Higuan roared. Ningyu did not care whether Higuan roared or not. He stamped his feet on the ground and rushed out. Higuan not only seriously injured Ningyi, but also wanted to kill Ningyi. How could Ningyu bear it? Since he cannot bear it, then he would teach Higuan a lesson. Even if he could not kill him, he would let him know who he could offend and who he could not. Buzz. However, before Ningyu came to Higuan, Lu Qiong, who was on the round platform, suddenly rushed out and blocked Ningyu's fist for Higuan. After one move, both Ningyu and Lu Qiong took a few steps back. Early stage of the manifestation stage, Lu Qiong stared at Ningyu with a hint of shock on her face. Lu Qiong was very confident in his strength. In the Supreme 9 Purities Temple, except for the top 3 monsters, almost no martial artist in the early stage of the manifestation stage could compete with him. But now, this martial artist in the early stage of the manifestation stage could be evenly matched with him. Although he did not use all his strength, he knew that the other party must not have used all his strength either. Early stage of the manifestation stage. While Lu Qiong was looking at Ningyu, Ningyu was also looking at Lu Qiong. To be honest, Lu Qiong gave Ningyu a great shock. Chapter 876. The seventh move, Ningyu, the genius of the Ning family, known as the star of hope for the rise of the Ning family. Lu Qiong's expression did not change much. She first evaluated Ningyu, then changed the topic and said coldly, However, You must pay for injuring Higuan. Oyanglun, the people you met at the Ning family, are they them? Ning Yu ignored Lu Qiong and spoke to Ouyang Luan in a deep voice. The three of them are the leaders, the rest. Ouyang Luan did not dare to be negligent. That's enough. Ning Yu waved his hand and interrupted Ouyang Luan. He then said, "This is the Ning family. Did you get permission from a Ning family to behave atrociously here? Is there something wrong with your brain?" Lu Qiong was slightly startled. "We are from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. We can go wherever we want. Do we need to report to you? This is the Ning family. It is not a place for you to behave atrociously." Ning Yu snorted and scolded. "I don't care if you are from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple or the Nine Purities Temple. In short, if you cannot get the forgiveness of the Ning family today, then there is no need for you to live in this world." Ha ha ha. Not only did Lu Qiong burst into laughter, but even Zhang Gu, who was on the round platform, also laughed out loud. A nobody from the Ning family of the Xia Kingdom dared to speak to the genius who ranked fourth in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple in such a manner. Either he was itching for a beating or he was tired of living. "Remember my name. I am Lu Qiong. This name will be your nightmare in leveling up." After laughing, Lu Qiong's eyes turned cold. She waved her sleeves quickly, and a ray of cold light flew out and headed straight for Ning Yu. Whoosh! The speed of the cold light was so fast that it made a sizzling sound as it rubbed against the air. Hong Mo, evacuate all the members of the Ning family. Treat those who are injured and help those who are not. Ning Yu did not take the cold light that was rushing towards him to heart. Instead, he instructed the Red Fiend and the others to evacuate the crowd. Although the martial arts practice field was large, if they fought here, the Ning family's children would definitely be affected. Only when the Ning family retreated with all their might could Ning Yu fight Lu Qiong for real. In Ning Yu's mind, although Lu Qiong was rather arrogant, she was still very strong. At the very least, he was the strongest genius that Ning Yu had faced at this stage. "Humph! How dare you get distracted while fighting me? I'll let you know what true strength is." Seeing that Ning Yu was ignoring her, Lu Qiong snorted coldly and dashed out. Boom! Before Lu Qiong reached Ning Yu swung his sleeve and easily dispersed the cold light that Lu Qiong shot out. After dispersing the cold light, Ning Yu's fist collided with Lu Qiong's fist. When the two fists collided, a terrifying shockwave spread out in all directions from the point of contact. Fortunately, the Red Fiend had evacuated the children of the Ning family in time. Otherwise, the aftermath alone would be enough to kill most of the Ning family members. "You've completely infuriated me." Lu Qiong took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Originally, I didn't intend to start a massacre in the Ning family. However, since you've disobeyed me time and time again, I can only do as I wish." "Zhang Gu," Lu Qiong said coldly. "Here," Zhang Gu replied. "Kill everyone from the Zhang family without mercy." Lu Qiong's tone was filled with intense, killing intent. Yes, bang. The ideal was perfect, but the reality shattered Lu Qiong's dream into pieces. Zhang Gu had just responded, but before he could start his massacre, he was hit by a black figure and fell off the round platform. What? The sudden change made Lu Qiong's expression change drastically. He was not surprised that Zhang Gu had been defeated. After all, Zhang Gu's cultivation was only half a step into the manifestation state. He was relatively weak. What shocked him was the person who defeated Zhang Gu. To be precise, it was the dog that defeated Zhang Gu, the black dog. Ning Yu, you could just kill these pieces of trash. Why go through so much trouble? Most importantly, after the black dog defeated Zhang Gu, it complained to Ning Yu. Lu Qiong was speechless. Since when did a dog dare to be so arrogant? Looks like I'm ignorant. At that moment, Lu Qiong calmed down. He ignored Zhang Gu and Higuan. Instead, he took out a crystal ball and said calmly, "I mean no harm. As long as you force a drop of blood on it, I'll leave immediately." Whoosh! As he spoke, Lu Qiong flicked his wrist and tossed the crystal ball at Ning Yu. Crack! How could Ning Yu catch the crystal ball? With a thought, the red devil sword appeared in Ning Yu's hand. With a slash of the sword, The crystal ball was directly cut into two halves without any fancy moves. This is my chance. Seeing that the crystal ball had been split in half, Lu Qiong quickly tore the void with his hands and entered it. Do you want to play this trick with me? Seeing that Lu Qiong had disappeared, Ningyu closed his eyes and released his powerful senses to detect Lu Qiong's location. Suddenly, Ningyu held the red devil sword in his hand and stabbed it above his head. Oh no! Lu Qiong did not expect Ningyu's senses to be so powerful. He hastily stopped in midair and retreated. However, before Lu Qiong could organize a second round of attacks, he saw that Ningyu was holding the red devil sword and slashed down a sword ripple in the air. The sword ripple was about the thickness of a person's waist and contained a terrifying wave of vitality. What? It's the solitaire. You're the son of a bitch that we've been looking for. Lu Qiong was a peerless genius ranked 4th on the Supreme 9 Purities Temple's Genius Leaderboard. Naturally, he had cultivated the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill. In fact, Lu Qiong had not only cultivated the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill, but he had also cultivated up to the 8th form. In the past, Lu Qiong thought that he had cultivated the 6th form, solitaire, to the extreme. Now that he had seen Ningyu perform the solitaire, even a genius like him felt ashamed of his inferiority. The 7th form of the Supreme 9 Purities sword skill, Sword Ripple. Lu Qiong would not sit and wait for death. He immediately took out the flying sword that he carried with him and injected the vitality in his consciousness into the flying sword. He slashed out a sword ripple in the air. In midair, two sword ripples that were as thick as a person's waist collided with each other like two angry tigers. Whoosh! The vitality waves that scattered in all directions almost enveloped the entire martial arts field. Fortunately, Ningyu had the foresight to evacuate the Ning family members. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. At this moment, all the martial artists in the martial arts field shifted their gazes to the air. Everyone wanted to see whether the sword ripple produced by Ningyu or the sword ripple produced by Lu Qiong would win. Haha! Ningyu only performed the 6th form of the Supreme 9 Purity sword skill, while senior brother Lu Qiong performed the 7th form of the Supreme 9 Purity sword skill. There's no comparison at all. Higuan seemed to have expected the outcome. He laughed wildly and said coldly. Chapter 877. To kill each other. Shut up, kid. The Dark Emperor couldn't stand Higuan's arrogance. Although the sword wave unleashed by Lu Qiong seemed to be quite powerful, however, it did not mean that he could defeat Ningyu for sure. Even if Lu Qiong's sword ripples could defeat Ningyu's sword ripples, it had nothing to do with Higuan. Pa pa pa. The Dark Emperor's figure flashed and arrived beside Higuan in the blink of an eye. His claws slapped Higuan's face repeatedly. Several crisp sounds rang out in the martial arts arena. It even attracted the attention of the crowd. A dead dog dares to hit me? When he was defeated by Ningyu, Higuan was very angry. However, he knew that he was no match for Ningyu, so he didn't fight with Ningyu. Now, Higuan believed that he could easily deal with the Dark Emperor. Therefore, Higuan clenched his right fist and punched the Dark Emperor's head. I want to eat braised dog meat today. Higuan seemed to have seen the tragic scene of the Dark Emperor's brain exploding, and he laughed uproariously. Bang! Higuan's arrogant laughter had only been halfway through when it suddenly stopped, and then his body was like a kite with a broken string as he retreated a few meters back. Poochie! Dark red blood spurted out. Higuan saw stars and could not even stand steadily. Rumble! At this time, Ningyu's solitaire had already collided with Lu Qiong's sword wave. When the two sword waves clashed, boundless essence scattered in all directions. Seeing this, everyone fled in all directions. Among them, Ningyu and Lu Qiong, who were at the center of the sword wave, stared at each other and stood still, letting the primordial qi hit them. Looking closely, one could see that there was a dense yuan qi light barrier on the surface of Ningyu and Lu Qiong's bodies. The yuan qi light barrier easily blocked the yuan qi fragments created by the collision of the sword ripples. The 7th form of the Supreme Nine Purities Sword Art. Ningyu's brows were slightly solemn as he mumbled, "Its power is indeed heaven-defying. It can actually compete with my solitaire." After listening to Ningyu, Lu Qiong almost spat out a mouthful of blood. "You call this heaven-defying? I executed the 7th form of the supreme Nine Purity Sword Art, while you only executed the 6th form. If this was heaven-defying, then what was not heaven-defying? Cut the crap. You won't be able to escape today." When the primordial chi fragments completely dissipated, Lu Qiong said coldly, "At first, I planned to bring you back to the supreme Nine Purities Temple alive. Now I've changed my mind. I realize that bringing a dead person back isn't a big problem." "You really want to kill me?" Ningyu frowned and said hesitantly, "What? Are you scared? If you're afraid, then hurry up and cripple your own cultivation, then kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Perhaps I'll spare your life and only cripple you." The corners of Lu Qiong's mouth curled up as she spoke sinisterly. "I think you might have misunderstood. I'm just making sure." Ningyu's expression was emotionless as he said indifferently, "Now that I'm sure that you're determined to kill me, I don't have any concerns anymore." "Ha ha ha." Lu Qiong seemed to have heard the funniest joke. She first threw her head back and laughed maniacally before changing the topic and reprimanding, "Whether you have concerns or not has nothing to do with me. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll send you to heaven." The moment she said the word heaven, Lu Qiong stomped on the ground and dashed out rapidly. Lu Qiong's speed was so fast that there was a sizzling sound when she came into contact with the air. Initially, Ningyu was very close to Lu Qiong. Coupled with Lu Qiong's speed, it only took 3 seconds for Lu Qiong to reach Ningyu. Although the situation was critical for Ningyu, Ningyu still looked calm, as though it was not Lu Qiong who was charging at him. The first second, Lu Qiong's speed was extremely fast. The second, Lu Qiong continued to increase her speed. The third second, when the third second arrived, Lu Qiong clenched his fists and punched at Ningyu's head. In order to kill Ningyu with one move, Lu Qiong even wrapped the essence chi in his consciousness si around his fists, causing his fists to make sizzling sounds. This is the moment. As soon as Lu Qiong punched, Ningyu's eyes turned cold, and he punched with both of his fists. Bam! When the 4 fists collided, Ningyu and Lu Qiong's eyes narrowed. Subsequently, Lu Qiong took out his flying sword and stabbed at Ningyu's heart. Puffed. The sound of the flying sword stabbing into flesh was heard. "Ha ha ha, you're still too young." Seeing the flying sword stabbing into Ningyu's heart, Lu Qiong threw his head back and laughed. "Is that so?" Just as Lu Qiong was laughing maniacally, he heard an indifferent voice. Immediately after, Ningyu held the red fiend sword and stabbed it out. Poof! The same flying sword stabbed into the body, and the same scene was displayed again. However, this time, the one who was stabbed by the flying sword was not Ningyu, but Lu Qiong. Lu Qiong lowered his head and looked at the red flying sword that was stabbed into his heart. Then he raised his head and pointed at Ningyu, shouting crazily, "Impossible! How is this possible? Haven't you already been stabbed in the heart by my flying sword? How can you still resist?" Lu Qiong could not understand. Logically, a martial artist whose heart was pierced by his king-level flying sword could not possibly have such powerful combat power. "Did you think you stabbed my heart?" Ningyu raised the red fiend sword in his hand and slashed at the flying sword that was stabbed into his heart right in front of Lu Qiong. Crack! The flying sword was slashed into 2, and Ningyu pulled out the part that was stabbed into his heart. Ding! Throwing the remaining half of the flying sword on the ground, Ningyu said calmly, "I forgot to tell you that I tilted my body slightly just now, so you did not stab my heart. You..." Poof! Lu Qiong extended his hand and pointed at Ningyu. He wanted to say something cold, but he spat out a mouthful of blood again. His eyes rolled back, and he died on the spot. What? Lu Qiong's death was something that Iguan and Zhang Gu could never have imagined. One had to know that Lu Qiong was ranked 4th in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. The unparalleled genius ranked 4th in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple was actually defeated by an ordinary person from the Xia Kingdom. No, It should be said that he was defeated by the son of a traitor from the supreme Nine Purities Temple. Shock, fear, annoyance, all kinds of uneasy emotions appeared on Higuan and Zhanggu's faces. Let's go. After Lu Qiong's death, Higuan knew that he had no chance of survival if he stayed any longer. Staying here would only mean death, but there was still a chance of survival if he ran away. However, Higuan did not run away rashly. He quietly approached Zhanggu and whispered, "Zhanggu, I will take the left and you take the right. Let's split up and run." No one noticed that when Higuan was speaking, he quietly threw a storage bag into Zhanggu's pocket. Split up and run? Zhanggu frowned. Based on his understanding of Higuan, he knew that Higuan was not that kind. However, with his life hanging by a thread, Zhanggu couldn't be bothered anymore. He stomped on the ground and quickly ran to the right. Hee, in order to live, I have to wrong you. Chapter 878. Supremacy Yin Tian Crack. The moment the jade tablet shattered, Zhanggu sensed that something was amiss. However, by the time Zhanggu reacted, it was already too late. Rumble. The storage bag in his pocket suddenly exploded. The aftermath of the terrifying explosion almost engulfed Zhanggu in an instant. Then, with Zhanggu at the center, the shockwave spread out in all directions. Red Fiend, Dark Emperor, seal off the training field. I'll be right back. No matter how terrifying the shockwave of the explosion was, Ningyu did not take it to heart. That was because the Dark Emperor and Red Fiend were very strong and could easily control the shockwave within a certain range. As long as the shockwave did not spread out, it would be fine. Ningyu's focus was on Higuan. Ningyu needed to know clearly who had come to the supreme Nine Purities Temple and how many supremacies there were. Only then could Ningyu better judge the difference in strength between him and the enemy. Otherwise, he would be blind like a headless fly. What a useless idiot. And he's a genius ranked 4th on the genius roll. To think that he can't even beat that bastard Ningyu. What a disgrace. A disgrace to the supreme Nine Purities Temple. In a dense forest outside Tianxin City, Higuan appeared out of thin air and spat out a mouthful of saliva. He said coldly, "That bastard might be at the early stage of the manifestation realm like me, but he's much stronger than me. I need to increase my cultivation as soon as possible. Once I advance to mid-stage manifestation realm, I'll immediately seek revenge on him." As he spoke, Higuan fell into deep thought. His cultivation was early-stage manifestation realm. If he wanted to advance to mid-stage manifestation realm in a short period of time, he would need a large amount of resources. Or rather, there was an expert who was willing to imbue him directly. At the thought of this, Higuan revealed a determined look. He took out a scroll from his pocket and burned it. Sizzle. After the scroll was burned, Higuan sat cross-legged on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. Swoosh! When the scroll was burned, a group of dozens of martial artists were advancing rapidly in the depths of the magical Beast Ridge. Suddenly, the old man in the lead stopped. Supremacy Yin Tian, did you discover something? Next to the old man, a slender young man asked doubtfully. No, I have something to do in Tianxin City. You guys rest here first. The old man waved his hand, then tore open the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After the old man left, an early-stage manifestation realm martial artist came to the young man's side and asked with a frown, "Yinhua, what happened to Venerable Yin Tian?" Not sure. The young man called Yinhua shook his head. Without Sovereign Yin Tian, it will be very difficult for us to continue venturing deeper into the magical Beast Mountain range, the early-stage creation realm warriors said. It's fine. Let's wait for now. If Venerable Cloud Sky doesn't return in 3 hours, we'll continue. Yinhua found a rock to sit on and waved his hand. Seeing this, the rest of the martial artists sat down cross-legged, took out their origin crystals, and began to rest. At first, they thought that there were no powerful demonic beasts in the magical Beast Mountain range. However, as they ventured deeper, they realized that they were wrong. It wasn't that there weren't any powerful demonic beasts in a magical Beast Mountain range. It was just that they hadn't reached the deepest region yet. Along the way, they had encountered at least 10 half-step manifestation realm demonic beasts. Furthermore, the deeper they went, the stronger the cultivation of the demonic beasts. They could imagine that they would definitely encounter manifestation realm demonic beasts if they continued further. Humph! At the same time, in the dense forest outside of Tianxian City, Higuan opened his eyes and slowly spat out a mouthful of turbid air. I've finally recovered to my peak state. Now I just have to wait for Venerable Yin Tian to rush over and give me the blessing. Higuan's eyes revealed a smear of viciousness. Venerable Yin Tian is a first-grade pinnacle human sovereign. After he gives me the blessing, my cultivation will at least reach the middle phase of the manifestation realm, or even the late phase of the manifestation realm. At that time, dealing with those initial phase of the manifestation realm will be a piece of cake. Is that so? Before Higuan's sinister voice could finish, he was interrupted by an indifferent voice. Who? With his voice interrupted, Higuan immediately stood up and stared at the void before him. He said in a deep voice, "Don't be sneaky. Come out if you have the ability." "As you wish." An indifferent voice resounded once again. Thereafter, a skinny figure appeared before Higuan. Ningyu. Looking at the familiar figure before him, Higuan's face drastically changed and his body couldn't help trembling. At this moment, Higuan was inwardly regretting. If he had known earlier, he would have stayed further away from Tianxian City. That way, Ningyu wouldn't have found him so quickly. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Higuan could only force himself to calm down and said, "I'll be honest with you. Venerable Yin Tian will be here in 3 minutes. Venerable Yin Tian is a first-grade pinnacle human sovereign. If he comes, you should know the consequences. Are you done?" Ningyu quietly listened to Higuan's narration. After a long while, Ningyu faintly said, "If you're done, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Venerable Yin Tian will probably take an hour to arrive. I'll calm him down first." Higuan thought inwardly, but maintained his composure on the surface. "Ningyu, we don't actually have any enmity between us. I also don't like Lu Qiong. You've done me a favor by killing him. Firstly, how many people from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple have come to the Great Xia Kingdom? Who are the powerful figures?" Ningyu couldn't be bothered with Higuan and asked directly. "I'm not sure about the exact number, but there are quite a few powerful figures." Higuan didn't play any tricks and said, "Just the Supremes alone, there are quite a few. Venerable Yin Tian can only be ranked below average among all the Supremes. Aside from the Supremes, there's also a cultivator ranked 3rd on the Supreme Nine Purities Temple's genius ranking, Yinhua." Yinhua. Hearing this, Ningyu knitted his brows and asked, "What's his cultivation?" "I'm not sure, because in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, the top 3 martial artists on the genius ranking are all freaks." Higuan shook his head and continued, "Lu Qiong is ranked 4th on the genius ranking and is at the early stage of the manifestation realm. But I can tell you very clearly that even 10 Lu Qiong combined wouldn't be a match for Yinhua. So powerful." Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. Lu Qiong's strength was still very strong. Looking at Higuan's facial expression, he didn't seem to be lying. 10 Lu Qiong wouldn't be a match for Yinhua. It was imaginable how terrifying Yinhua's strength was. At the very least, the current Ning Yu couldn't contend against him. It seems like the early stage of the manifestation realm is far from enough. Ningyu took a deep breath and said to himself, after advancing to the early stage of the manifestation realm, Ningyu's strength had a qualitative leap. Even if he were to face a half-step supremacy realm cultivator, he would be able to kill him easily. However, there was always someone better out there. He had to increase his strength as soon as possible. Good chance. Chapter 879. Triple Birth Palm Chapter 879 Inch Explode. As soon as the storage bag was thrown out, Higuan crushed the jade pendant in the bag and bellowed. Boom! As soon as Higuan finished his sentence, the storage bag exploded. Let's go. The explosion of the storage bag created a powerful shockwave that spread in all directions. Higuan seized the opportunity and fled into the distance at an astonishing speed. Hee, you don't see me as a human? You have to pay the price. Higuan laughed sinisterly as he fled. To Higuan's knowledge, no matter how powerful Ningyu was, he would not be unscathed. Higuan's idea was simple. He would escape from this area first and return after the shockwave of the explosion dissipated. At the center of the explosion, Ningyu focused his eyes. The vitality in his consciousness surged out and formed a vitality shield around him. Crack! Although the vitality in Ningyu's consciousness was very rich, Higuan had thrown out too many storage bags, causing the explosion to be extremely powerful. Even though Ningyu resisted with all his might, he could only hold on for a short while. Crack, crack, crack. The crisp cracking sounds became more and more rapid. In the end, the vitality shield around Ningyu was completely destroyed. Damn it! Seeing the vitality shield shattering, Ningyu cursed and hurriedly released his early-stage rank 7 soul power. TSK. TSK. The soul power formed a defensive line and withstood the shockwave of the explosion. Phew! After about 10 minutes, Ningyu let out a long sigh of relief. That was close. Fortunately, his soul power had advanced to early-stage rank 7. Otherwise, this explosion would have been enough to severely injure Ningyu. I was too careless. Ningyu narrowed his eyes. He did not chase after Higuan. Instead, he found a secluded place nearby and began to recuperate. My cultivation is now at the early-stage manifestation realm. It will be difficult for me to advance to the mid-stage manifestation realm in a short period of time. If I want to improve my strength, I have to cultivate the netherworld samsara palm. Up until now, Ningyu had already cultivated the netherworld samsara palm to the 7th move, the palm of life and death. With the increase of his cultivation and soul power, the life and death palm had already fallen behind. Therefore, Ningyu decided to cultivate the 8th style of the netherworld samsara palm, the 3 lives palm. As the name implied, the 3 lives palm could split into 3 and attack the enemy from 3 different directions. The 3 lives palm had a higher requirement for soul energy. One had to be at the peak of rank 6 in order to practice it. Ningyu's soul strength had reached the early stage of level 7. Coupled with his strong perception, it was not very difficult for him to cultivate. 3 lives palm. After about half an hour, Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes and pushed out his right hand quickly. Rumble. In a split second, a terrifying palm print peeled off from Ningyu's palm. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In midair, the palm print split into 3 and exploded again. Boom, 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 hiss. Looking at the 3 palm prints exploding in midair, Ningyu's eyes narrowed and he gasped. The 8th style of the netherworld samsara palm was indeed powerful. Even one of the palm prints was much more powerful than the palm of life and death. Most importantly, if the 3 palm prints were combined, the power would be heaven-defying. Furthermore, Ningyu hadn't poured his 7th grade soul force into the 3 births palm. Once he poured his 7th grade soul force into his palm and combined it with his yuan qi, the might of the 3 births palm would be enough to easily kill an ordinary half-step supreme being. It has only been an hour. I can go back now. After resting for a few minutes, when the vitality in his sea of consciousness had recovered by 2/3, Ningyu stood up and wanted to return to Tianxian City. If Higuan wanted to run in an hour, he would definitely be very far away. If he wanted to chase after him now, it would be very difficult. Rather than wasting time, he might as well return to Tianxian City and work hard to improve his strength. Go back. Where do you want to go? However, just as Ningyu stood up and was about to leave, an indifferent voice rang in his ears. Hearing this, Ningyu frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, "Come out." Buzz buzz. The space in front of Ningyu was torn apart, and a young man gradually appeared. Higuan. Seeing the martial artist that appeared from the void, Ningyu was stunned at first. Then he revealed a joyful expression. "You could have taken the road to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. Are you sure you're talking about me?" Higuan pointed at his nose and said hesitantly, "If I'm not wrong, you only have 20% of your combat power left." I don't deny that you were very powerful at your peak, but I can defeat you with one hand now. The ignorant are fearless. Ningyu could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Iguan. Earlier, he did not kill Iguan and let him escape. This time, Ningyu would not hold back. 3 lives palm. Coincidentally, Ningyu had cultivated the 3 lives palm. He directly injected the primordial chi in his sea of consciousness into his palm and instantly blasted out a palm print. Swoosh! The palm-sized palm print drew an arc in the air and headed straight for Higuan. Hee, you want to kill me with a mere palm print? Have you lost your mind? Seeing the palm print that was constantly attacking him, Higuan's lips curled up slightly, and he smiled sinisterly. Since you've lost your mind, I'll treat it for you. Higuan's imagination was too optimistic. As the palm print got closer and closer to him, the smile on his face became less and less. Finally, it stopped. Pa! A muffled sound was heard. 5 blood-red palm prints appeared on Higuan's face. As for Higuan's body, it was like a kite with a broken string falling straight backward. Crack! He hit a towering tree, and the huge tree was snapped in half. Higuan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was ashen. You should be grateful to me. Ningyu's figure flashed and appeared in front of Higuan in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, I held back at the critical moment. Otherwise, you'd have been sent to hell. The 3 lives palm was extremely powerful. If Ningyu used his full strength, Higuan might not even be left with a piece of him. The reason why Higuan was not killed on the spot was that Ningyu did not wrap his soul force around his palm and did not cause the 3 lives palm to explode. Otherwise, even 10 Iguan would not be able to survive. Don't be too proud. Supremacy Yin Tian will be here in 3 minutes at most. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Higuan snorted coldly. He was not afraid of Ningyu at all. You still dare to be stubborn when you're about to die. Originally, Ningyu wanted to spare Higuan's life. At the very least, he wanted to force out the main intention of the Supreme 9 Purities Temple. Ningyu did not believe that the people of the Supreme 9 Purities Temple would come to the Great Xia Kingdom just to find him. However, since Higuan did not know what was good for him, Ningyu finally decided to kill him. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu took out the red demon's sword and slashed at Higuan's head. What kind of demon is this? How dare you kill Higuan? I think you're tired of living. If you know what's good for you, stop now. Otherwise, I'll make sure you have nowhere to go. Chapter 880. Chapter 880. Death, Venerable Yin Tian, save me. Hearing this loud shout, Higuan hurriedly shouted, Save you? Ningyu's face turned cold as he continued. The Venerable Yin Tian that you speak of is at least 30 seconds away. 30 seconds is more than enough for me to kill you. As he spoke, the red demon sword in Ningyu's hand swiftly slashed down. You can't kill me. You can't. Looking at the flying sword that was constantly approaching him, Higuan screamed like a madman. Poof! However, Higuan had only shouted halfway when he suddenly stopped. Blood splattered everywhere. Higuan, who was lying on the ground, widened his eyes. Even in death, Higuan couldn't understand why Ningyu was so daring. Venerable Yin Tian was a pinnacle grade 1 sovereign. Even if Ningyu tried his best to escape, he wouldn't be able to escape. Higuan could only slowly think about it in hell. Damn it! Not far from Ningyu, Venerable Yin Tian felt that Higuan had been killed. He instantly flew into a rage out of humiliation and ignited his blood essence to increase his speed. Rustle. The distance of 30 seconds was forcefully shortened to 10 seconds by Venerable Yin Tian. 10 seconds later, Venerable Yin Tian arrived in this region. You're very confident and arrogant. Sweeping a glance at Higuan's corpse, Venerable Yin Tian's gaze fell onto Ningyu. Do you know Higuan's identity? So what if I do? So what if I don't? Ningyu faintly replied. Clap, clap. Venerable Yin Tian clapped his hands and said, I like people like you. Ningyu looked at Venerable Yin Tian in disgust. I'm sorry, but I don't have gay hobbies. Higuan has a high-rank human sovereign backing him up in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Now that you've killed him, no one in this world can save you. Venerable Yin Tian coldly snorted. Oh, may I ask if Lu Qiong has any backing in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple? Ning Yu asked. Lu Qiong? His father is the 6th Grand Elder of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Supremacy Cloud Sky said coldly. Mu Tian's father is the 5th Supreme Elder of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, and Lu Qiong's father is the 6th Supreme Elder of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. He Guan has the backing of a high-level human sovereign. Am I destined to go against the Supreme Nine Purities Temple? Ning Yu frowned and murmured. During this period of time, Ning Yu could be said to have killed many people. However, every time Ning Yu killed someone, he felt very helpless. Mu Tian had caused trouble for him time and time again, so he had to kill him to vent his anger. Lu Qiong also wanted to kill him, otherwise she would not have died. What are you mumbling about? Don't worry. Even though you killed He Guan, I won't kill you on the spot. Supremacy Cloud Sky said coldly. I will bring you back to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple and hand you over to He Guan's backing to kill you. But even though you can escape death, you cannot avoid suffering. You want to die? Ning Yu interrupted Supremacy Cloud Sky and faintly said, if you want to fight, then fight. What's with all the nonsense? Crack. Supremacy Cloud Sky never imagined that Ning Yu would dare to speak to him in this manner. Instantly, his entire body emitted cracking sounds. Swish! In the next moment, Supremacy Cloud Sky stomped on the ground and made his move. Come at me. Life-Death Palm. Seeing that Supremacy Cloud Sky was enraged, Ning Yu's left fist turned into a palm, and he threw out a palm print. The reason why Ning Yu chose to enrage Supremacy Cloud Sky was because cultivators would easily lose their rationality when they were enraged. Otherwise, why would Ning Yu be so foolish as to provoke Supremacy Cloud Sky? You're seeking death. Supremacy Cloud Sky flicked his wrist and threw out a backhand palm print, which clashed with Ning Yu's palm print. When the two palm prints clashed, Ning Yu's palm print dissipated as expected. Chi. Supremacy Cloud Sky's palm print continued to exert force. In the blink of an eye, it arrived beside Ning Yu and landed on Ning Yu's chest. Bang! When the palm print landed, Ning Yu's body flew back. I can kill a mere early-stage manifestation realm cultivator with a flick of my finger. You're lucky today. I only have 50% of my strength left. Otherwise, you would have died a horrible death. Supremacy Cloud Sky said indifferently after forcing Ning Yu back with one move. Only 50% of your strength. Hearing this, Ning Yu's eyes turned, and the essence in his palm instantly dissipated. This is a rare opportunity. I can't miss it. Practically in an instant, Ning Yu decided to fight Supremacy Cloud Sky to the death. In the beginning, Ning Yu wanted to take advantage of Supremacy Cloud Sky's carelessness to heavily injure him. But now, Ning Yu changed his mind. I'll take your life while you're down. Ning Yu wanted to kill Supremacy Cloud Sky when he only had 50% of his strength left. Thinking about it, Ning Yu immediately summoned all the essence in his sea of consciousness and wrapped it around his palm. Thereafter, Ning Yu quietly summoned his initial 7th grade soul force and hid it under his essence. Haha! Not to mention that you only have 50% of your strength left. Even if you're at your peak, I can still easily kill you. Ning Yu did not attack immediately because he wanted to determine how much strength Supremacy Cloud Sky had left. If Supremacy Cloud Sky was lying, wouldn't he be in trouble? You're testing me? Venerable Yin Tian's brows twitched as he sinisterly said, That's useless. I'm a pinnacle 1st grade sovereign, and even 30% of my strength is enough to kill you. Who doesn't know how to talk big? Take this. Ning Yu let out a low growl and dashed out. Chi. In order to heavily injure or even kill Supremacy Yin Tian, Ning Yu had used a secret technique to hide his essence, energy, and soul power in his palm. At the same time, Ning Yu said arrogantly, Venerable Yin Tian, although you're a pinnacle 1st grade human sovereign with a higher cultivation than me, you don't have to worry. you can bring out your full strength. Otherwise, it'll be embarrassing if you lose. Arrogant. The facts prove that Ningyu had really angered Supremacy Yun Tian. Originally, Supremacy Cloud Sky could only display 50% of his strength. After being enraged, he only used 30% of his strength to fight Ningyu. 3 lives palm. It was a rare opportunity that Ningyu couldn't let go of. Before his palm could collide with Supremacy Cloud Sky, Ningyu quickly waved his palm, and a huge palm print flew out of his palm. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The palm print first split into 3. Then the 3 palm prints merged together and collided with Supremacy Cloud Sky's palm print. Explode. Along with Ningyu's roar, an earth-shattering explosion resounded in this region. Rumble. With Supremacy Yun Tian at the center, the terrifying explosive force constantly spread out. Clang. Ningyu's face turned grave as he retreated and forced out several drops of blood essence to form a defensive line around him. Crack, crack, crack. All the trees in the surroundings were uprooted. It was so much so that even the air was being squeezed out, leaving a vacuum in the middle. Chapter 881. Not an impatient character, damn it. This is infuriating. Venerable Yun Tian was furious and vexed at the same time. If he knew that Ningyu's palm could explode and possess such a powerful might, he wouldn't have acted so arrogantly. He was originally only left with 50% of his strength. Now that he had used 30% of his strength, it would naturally be hard for him to withstand the explosion of the palm. But fortunately, Venerable Yun Tian possessed the powerful perception of a pinnacle first-grade sovereign. Otherwise, the explosion of the 3 palm prints would be enough to send him to heaven. Poof! But even so, Venerable Yun Tian spat out a mouthful of blood before he felt a little better. Brat, you better not let me see you again. Otherwise, I will grind your bones into ashes. Venerable Yun Tian wiped the blood off the corner of his lips as he clenched his fist. You want to grind my bones into ashes? When Venerable Yun Tian finished his words, Ningyu flew over from afar. Seeing Ningyu before him, Venerable Yun Tian's heart jolted. He knew that the situation wasn't good. Venerable Yun Tian had used all his trump cards to withstand the explosion of the palm prints. His strength had dropped from 50% to less than 10%. Venerable Yun Tian knew his limits. He knew that it was tough for him to be Ningyu's opponent in his current state. Thus, he could only stabilize Ningyu before thinking of a way to leave. Pinnacle first-grade sovereign. Ningyu didn't seem to know that Venerable Yun Tian was trying to stall for time as he faintly said, "Although you have the qualifications to be arrogant, you only have 50% of your strength left. Stop acting. In this world, there's always someone stronger. You think that you have me in your grasp." Venerable Yun Tian's face was emotionless as he continued, "No matter what, I'm still a pinnacle first-grade sovereign. My trump cards are not something that you can imagine. I know that pinnacle first-grade sovereigns have many trump cards." Ningyu nodded his head, agreeing with Venerable Yun Tian's words. However, suddenly, Ningyu changed the topic and continued, "I dare to guarantee that you don't have any more trump cards left." Ha ha ha. Venerable Cloud Sky acted as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. After letting out a wild laugh, he said coldly, "Little bastard, any one of my trump cards is enough to kill you. The reason you haven't attacked me is definitely because you're afraid of my trump card." Ningyu looked at Yun Tian like he was looking at a fool. He said indifferently, "You misunderstand. I'm not afraid of your trump card. I'm just preparing something." Whoosh! With that, Ningyu flicked his wrist and drew out the red demon sword. This flying sword is looking at the red flying sword in Ningyu's hand. Yun Tian opened his mouth in disbelief. "It's just as you thought. It's a monarch rank flying sword," Ningyu said as he waved the red demon sword in his hand. As soon as the word sword was uttered, Ningyu's figure flickered and dashed out like a bolt of lightning. Ningyu's speed was very fast, and he arrived in front of Supremacy Cloud Sky almost instantly. Not good. Supremacy Cloud Sky's expression changed drastically. Right now, he only had about 10% of his combat power left. Facing Ningyu at his peak with only 10% of his combat power was a dead end. It was said that ordinary people could erupt with terrifying combat power in a desperate situation. Supremacy Cloud Sky was a pinnacle first-grade human sovereign, and he had an extremely terrifying combat power. In a split second, Supremacy Cloud Sky blasted out a terrifying fist radiance. Chi! Chi! However, even with Supremacy Cloud Sky's terrifying combat power, he could only hold a grudge against the Monarch rank Red Demon Sword. The Red Demon Sword easily dispersed the fist aura that Cloud Sky Supremacy had unleashed. Then, under Cloud Sky Supremacy's horrified gaze, it stabbed into his heart. The sound of a flying sword piercing into flesh resounded. Looking down at the blood-red flying sword in his heart, Supremacy Cloud Sky felt that the vitality in his body was decreasing at an alarming rate. It felt like something was rapidly devouring his essence chi. Your flying sword is actually a devouring flying sword. Supremacy Cloud Sky tried his best to restrain the loss of vitality in his body, but unfortunately, he didn't have much strength left. He could only watch helplessly as his vitality entered the Red Demon Sword. You're right. This flying sword is a devouring flying sword. Moreover, it's a dual devouring flying sword that devours vitality and souls. Ningyu didn't hide it from Supremacy Cloud Sky and said indifferently. Supremacy Cloud Sky was originally a little vexed. Now that he heard Ningyu's words, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. It was a pity. Supremacy Cloud Sky didn't have the chance to continue fighting with Ningyu. With his heart pierced and the rapid loss of vitality, Supremacy Cloud Sky only lasted for 3 minutes before his eyes rolled back and he died on the spot. He actually lasted for 3 minutes. It seems like I have to be very careful when facing Supremacy Cloud Sky in the future. Ningyu didn't expect that Supremacy Cloud Sky could last for 3 minutes after his heart was pierced. One must know that the warriors that Ningyu killed in the past would die immediately as long as their hearts were pierced. The fact that Supremacy Cloud Sky could last for so long also gave Ningyu a wake-up call. In the future, he had to be very careful when facing Supremacy Cloud Sky or warriors of higher realms. There might be people who could still be lively after their hearts were pierced and their heads were chopped off. Supremacy Cloud Sky is a peak grade 1 supremacy. After the Red Demon Sword devours and refines him, it should be able to help the Red Demon advance to the creation realm. The Dark Emperor and Harry Ball were in the early stage creation realm. Only the Red Demon Sword was still in the Yin-Yang realm. The Red Demon had been with Ningyu for a long time and was always at the front. Ningyu couldn't let his cultivation be at the back. Chi. About 10 minutes later, the Red Demon Sword devoured all the vitality and soul force in Supremacy Cloud Sky's body. Ningyu slowly came to Supremacy Cloud Sky's side and started searching. Only 1 million royal grade essence crystals? Supremacy Cloud Sky was a peak grade 1 supremacy. He might have some good treasures on him. After a while, Ningyu found a storage bag. He used his perception and entered the storage bag. Although there were a lot of essence crystals in the storage bag, it didn't match Supremacy Cloud Sky's status at all. Let's search again. Ningyu didn't give up and continued searching. A minute later, Ningyu took a golden box from Supremacy Cloud Sky's waist. The box was square and had a total of 6 sides. There was a key on each side. There are so many keys. Could there be some heaven-defying treasure inside? Ningyu frowned slightly and tried to open the box. After a while, Ningyu chose to give up for the time being. I'll try to open it after I return to Tianxin City. I have to clean up the battlefield now. Ningyu wasn't an impatient person. He was very steady and rarely made mistakes. Ningyu didn't even let go of He Guan's things. He put them together with the things he found on Supremacy Cloud Sky's body into the storage bag. Afterward, Ningyu carefully disposed of Supremacy Cloud Sky and He Guan's corpses and tried to restore everything to its original state. Chapter 882. Initiation Tianquan City, Ning family. After the battle, the Ning family seemed very quiet. In order to prevent the members of the family from being hurt again, the acting head of the Ning family, Ning Tang, announced that no one was allowed to leave the Ning family without permission. At this time, in the conference hall of the Ning family, Ning He sat at the head of the table. Below, the Dark Emperor, Liu Wei, Hong Yimou, and the others sat on the right. On the left were Ning Tang and the younger generation of the Ning family. The hall was unprecedentedly gloomy, and no one spoke first. Ahem. After a quarter of an hour, Ning Tang coughed twice and broke the silence. He said to Ning He, "Patriarch, do you think we should send someone to look for Ningyu?" Several hours had passed since Ningyu left. Ningyu had not returned for such a long time, so Ning Tang was inevitably worried. "How about this? I'll leave all the matters of the Ning family to you. I'll look for you or myself." Ningyi said after pondering for a moment. "Patriarch, the Ning family can't do without you. In my opinion, I'll look for Ningyu." "You stay," Ning Tang said with a frown. "There's no need to say anything. I made up my mind." Ningyi waved his hand and said, "I say, can we stop for a while?" At this moment, the Dark Emperor rolled his eyes and said, "Ningyu's strength is not something you can figure out. Besides, that he Guan is only at the early stage of the manifestation realm. I can kill a martial artist of this level with one move. Although Ningyu is slightly weaker than me, it's not a problem for him to deal with Iguan." Hearing this, everyone in the Ning family in the hall gasped. Killing an early-stage manifestation realm martial artist with one move? That was too terrifying. What you need to do now is to wait. The Dark Emperor was very satisfied with the reaction of the Ning family, and continued, "Your cultivation is too low. The higher ones are only in the Yuan Dan realm, the true martial realm. The lower ones are only in the Hotian realm, the body-tempering realm. These worlds apart from Ningyu." The faces of the Ning family darkened. Originally, the fact that a dog could speak human language had already shocked them, but this dog was also very arrogant, which really made them speechless. "I wonder what is Ningyu's cultivation?" Ning Tang said hesitantly. "Create." The Dark Emperor opened his mouth, but just as he was about to speak, he stopped abruptly. He glanced at the entrance of the hall and said, "He's here. Ask him yourself." Whoosh! When the Dark Emperor's voice rang out, a skinny figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hall. Ningyu. Without a doubt, the thin figure at the entrance of the hall was Ningyu. Because of what the Dark Emperor had just said, the younger generation of the Ning family all looked at Ningyu in admiration. "Grandfather, have you recovered from your injuries?" Ignoring the gazes of the crowd, Ningyu went straight to Ning He's side and asked. Although Ning Yu could use his perception to probe Ning He's body, and Ning He would definitely not be able to discover it, but Ning Yu did not intend to do so. After all, Ning He was his grandfather in this life, and it would be unfilial of him to do so. "All right, it's all thanks to your friend's help." Ning He's face revealed a smile as he pointed at the Red Devil and said, "Why didn't you say it was me? I helped too." Ning He only mentioned the Red Devil and not the Dark Emperor, causing the Dark Emperor's face to be filled with displeasure. "Go to the side." Ningyu glared at the Dark Emperor fiercely, and then said in a clear voice, "What happened to the Ning family this time was purely accidental. There is no need to panic. I will stay in the Ning family for a few days. In these few days, I will take out an hour every day to explain the confusion of alchemy and martial arts. If there's nothing else, let's disperse. See you tomorrow morning at the Ning family's martial arts field." No matter what, Ningyu came from the Ning family, so it was natural for him to help the younger generation of the Ning family. Hearing Ningyu's words, the younger generation of the Ning family looked at Ningyu gratefully, and then left one by one. "Dark Emperor, you guys can leave first. I have something to talk to Grandfather about alone." Seeing that the Dark Emperor and the rest were still untactfully staying here, Ningyu said indifferently, "If you want to leave, then leave. What kind of good place do you think this is?" The Dark Emperor rolled his eyes, and then he left the hall without looking back. Liu Wei, the Red Devil, and the others also bade farewell to Ningyu. Even Ning Tang and the other elders of the Ning family left obediently. In an instant, The conference hall changed from a lot of people to just Ning Yu and Ning He. Whoosh! In order to prevent the conversation from being eavesdropped, Ning Yu waved his hand, and suddenly a wave of primordial chi flew out, completely sealing the hall. Is your cultivation really at the creation realm? Feeling the terrifying primordial chi leaking out of Ning Yu's every move, Ning He asked in surprise. More or less. Afraid that Ning He would overthink, Ning Yu did not tell him directly, but changed the topic. Grandfather, is there any news of my father recently? Your father? Ning He frowned slightly and shook his head. I haven't heard from him since he left the Ning family. It seems that he really went to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Thinking of what he had heard in the magical Beast Mountain range, Ning Yu took a deep breath, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. Back then, Ning Yu did not know Ning Hai's specific cultivation. Now that he thought about it, he could clearly judge that Ning Hai's cultivation was at the peak of the yin-yang realm at that time. Going to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple with the cultivation of the peak of the yin-yang realm, it was tantamount to seeking death. After pondering for a moment, Ning Yu said, Grandfather, your cultivation is at the early primordial core realm, not too far from the middle primordial core realm. Let me help you. As he spoke, Ning Yu waved his hands repeatedly and suddenly patted Ning He's back. Buzz! Wisps of primordial chi flowed through Ning Yu's palm into Ning He's back, and then into Ning He's consciousness. Empowerment. Ning He's aptitude was not very good. In theory, it was difficult for him to make any more achievements in his lifetime. Therefore, Ning Yu chose the most direct and violent way to improve his strength: empowerment. I'm an old man. At first, Ning Yu did not know what Ning Yu was going to do, but when he reacted, he hurriedly said, using empowerment on him was a complete waste of resources. Bang! However, before Ning He finished speaking, he felt a muffled sound in his consciousness. The middle primordial core realm. At this moment, Ning He broke through the limit of the early primordial core realm and advanced to the middle primordial core realm. Again, since it was empowerment, Ning Yu would certainly not only help Ning He advance from the early primordial core realm to the middle primordial core realm. Next, regardless of Ning He's dissuasion, Ning Yu continued to increase his strength and transferred primordial chi to Ning He. Time passed by minute. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours had passed. Bang! Bang! In these 3 hours, 2 more muffled sounds came from Ning He's consciousness. The peak of the primordial core realm. After 3 hours of continuous empowerment, Ning He finally reached the peak of the primordial core realm. As for Ning Yu, he was sweating profusely, and even his breath was a little weak. Crack! Chapter 883. Rushing Thunderhand. Chapter 883. Thunderhand. This. Ning He was originally very shocked when he advanced to the peak of the primal core realm. However, when he found out that Ning Yu took out the royal grade essence crystal, he was immediately stunned. That was a royal grade essence crystal. Ning Yu just threw it into his mouth and chewed it like that? Could it be that Ning Yu was not afraid of bursting his stomach? A series of questions rose in Ning He's mind, causing his expression to be very strange. Phew! Perhaps seeing the change in Ning He's expression, Ning Yu let out a long breath and said, Grandfather, it's best not to tell anyone about me, giving you the blessing. Gulp! Ning He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, Don't worry, I will never let a third person know. Swish! Ning Yu flicked his sleeves, and a storage bag immediately flew towards Ning He. Pa! Seeing Ning He catch the storage bag, Ning Yu continued, You can keep the essence crystals inside. If it's not enough, find me again. As he spoke, Ning Yu's figure flashed and instantly left the main hall. Looking at Ning Yu's departing figure, Ning He slightly exerted his perception and entered the storage bag to probe. Hiss! This probe directly made Ning He dumbfounded. The essence crystals in the storage bag were not few, but a lot. There were a total of 10,000 royal grade essence crystals. If Ning He knew that Ning Yu originally intended to give him 100,000 royal grade essence crystals, he would probably be so surprised that he couldn't even speak. Ning Yu did not alarm anyone. He first disguised himself, and then left the Ning family and strolled on the streets of Tianxian City. There are really more and more experts. Feeling the terrifying aura emitted from the martial artist around him, Ning Yu's expression became solemn. Compared to the capital of the Great Xia Kingdom, Tianxian City was just a small place. But it was in such a small place that there were many powerful experts. In the current Tianxian City, the true martial realm could only be described as low strength. The primal core realm was considered to have reached a higher level, but there were still many of them. Only by reaching the yin-yang realm would one be able to gain a firm foothold in Tianxian City and not be bullied by others. I wonder why so many people have gathered in profound Heaven City. After pondering for a while, Ning Yu decided to go to the restaurant. Usually, the news in the restaurant was the fastest and most timely. There were all kinds of people there. "Sir, this way, please." As soon as Ning Yu stepped into the restaurant, a waiter greeted him and said, "It just so happens that there's only one seat left. What a coincidence that you've come. Give me a few dishes." Ning Yu followed the manservant to a seat near the window and sat down. He casually tossed a few gold coins to the manservant and said, "Sir, this restaurant doesn't accept gold coins." The attendant revealed a troubled expression and hesitated. "No gold coins?" Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully. "That's right. From 3 days ago, this restaurant only accepts origin crystals." The waiter took a closer look at Ning Yu and said, "You may not know this, but the ingredients of this restaurant are all demonic beasts. It's very difficult to capture them, so the lowest requirement is low-grade origin crystals. Waiter, quickly prepare 5 caddies of running bull beast thigh meat. 1 drink a cup." At this moment, a group of 4 to 5 people stepped into the restaurant shouting. One of the burly men was carrying a gold coin tiger on his shoulder. From the looks of it, he had just killed it. Seeing this, the waiter did not dare to delay. He hurried to the burly man and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, there are no more seats in Scattered Flower House. The last seat has just been, what?" The burly man slammed the gold coin tiger on his shoulder onto the ground and shouted, "You're telling me there are no more seats?" Puffed. After being yelled at by the burly man, the waiter spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and his body swayed. The waiter was only a Khanate stage martial artist, while the burly man was a peak primal core stage martial artist. There was no comparison between the two. The waiter was already very lucky that he did not die from the roar. "Oomph. Whoever has taken a last seat, if you know what's good for you, get out of my way. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The burly man snorted coldly, his gaze moving around the restaurant. Swoosh! At that moment, everyone's gaze turned to Ning Yu. Bang! The burly man slammed his palm on the table in front of Ning Yu and said coldly, "Don't you understand human language? Get out of my way, or else don't blame me for being rude. Hey, hurry up and leave." Thunderhand Wentai is a peak primal core stage martial artist. His strength is unparalleled. You're no match for him. That's right. Don't underestimate Wentai just because he is a peak primal core stage martial artist. He is fearless even when up against an early yin-yang stage martial artist. Kid, if you leave now, you still have a way out. Otherwise, no one will be able to protect you. The sounds of discussion that reached his ears caused the corners of Wentai's mouth to curl up as if he was the most powerful person in the world. Get out. Ning Yu's face was expressionless as he uttered a single word. Whoosh! At that moment, all the martial artists in the restaurant put down their chopsticks and looked at the skinny figure in shock. Daring to tell Thunderhand Wentai to get out? Either he was strong or he was stupid. Obviously, everyone thought that Ning Yu was the latter. This was because the aura that Ning Yu exuded was only that of an early primal core stage martial artist. No one believed that an early primal core stage martial artist like Ning Yu was Wentai's match. Ha ha ha! Hearing Ning Yu's words, Wentai was stunned at first. Then he threw his head back and laughed. After laughing, Wentai unleashed the aura of a peak primal core stage martial artist and suddenly pressed towards Ningyu. Kid, how dare you go against me? No one in this world can save you. Feeling the aura of a peak primal core stage martial artist coming towards him, Ningyu merely frowned and did not react. More accurately, Ningyu did not want to lower himself to Wen Tai's level. At that moment, Ningyu's attention was completely focused on one of the rooms on the second floor of the restaurant. From within the room, Ningyu felt an extremely terrifying aura. An expert. An absolute expert. Ningyu took a deep breath, and his expression became serious. Ningyu, please come up for a chat. At that moment, a calm voice reached Ningyu's ears. Hearing this, Ningyu's brows furrowed, and he fell into deep thought. Everyone's jaws dropped, completely dumbfounded. The person you are fighting is a peak primal core stage martial artist, and you have no reaction at all? Kid, you have completely infuriated me. Being ignored by Ningyu, Wen Tai snorted and immediately clenched his right hand into a fist, viciously punching towards Ningyu's head. As if he could see the horrible scene of Ningyu's brain exploding, Wen Tai laughed sinisterly and said, offending me, the Thunder Hand Wen Tai, I will make sure you have nowhere to go. Puffed. The difference between ideals and reality was often only a distance of a cold ray of light. Bang! Ningyu flicked his finger, and instantly a cold ray of light flew out and hit Wen Tai's chest. The huge force that came from his chest caused Wen Tai's body to fly several meters away. Fresh blood spurted out, and Wen Tai's face was extremely pale. Whoosh! At that moment, the entire restaurant was so quiet that even breathing could be heard clearly. Chapter 884. The Saintess. Creak, creak. Ignoring the exclamations of the crowd, Ningyu walked straight to the door and pushed it open. There were a total of 2 martial artists in the room. One was an old man, and the other was a young woman. The old man's sideburns were white, and there was nothing special about him. The young woman was beautiful, no different from Lu Wei. The old man's body seemed to be wrapped in something. Even with Ningyu's superb perception, he could only vaguely feel that the old man's cultivation was at the supreme realm. As for the young woman, her cultivation was even more vague. At first glance, the young woman seemed very ordinary. But upon closer inspection, she wasn't ordinary at all. Haha, welcome, welcome. Seeing Ningyu walk in, the young woman faintly smiled and said, let me introduce myself. You can call me Yinmu. This is Supreme Talisman Marshal. The young woman pointed at the old man. Ningyu didn't speak. He only quietly listened. Ningyu was very clear that since Yinmu called him over, there must be something he wanted to say. And the facts proved that Ningyu's guess was correct. Yinmu said, you must be wondering why I know your name. I'm not afraid to tell you that I come from the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion. Hearing this, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. But on the surface, he still maintained a calm and indifferent appearance. Seeing Ningyu's reaction, Yinmu couldn't help but look at Ningyu in a higher light. He slowly said, the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion has a total of 9 major branches. The ones that have a grudge with you are only the 7th, 8th, and 9th branches. Don't beat around the bush. If you have something to say, just say it. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Yinmu didn't need to beat around the bush. They were all smart people. If they continued to beat around the bush, it would be a waste of time. You really are straightforward. Yinmu's red lips parted. I am a genius of the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion's first branch. To be more accurate, I am the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion's first branch's Saintess. Saintess? I don't think that has anything to do with me. Ningyu frowned. The past indeed has nothing to do with you. Yinmu faintly smiled. Then he changed the topic and said, but after you killed Gu Yuan and the others, we became related. What does it matter? Ningyu said calmly. You might not know, but the 7th and 9th branches of the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion all listen to Zhu Zhen's orders. You killing Gu Yuan and the others is the same as cutting off one of Zhu Zhen's arms. Do you think that Zhu Zhen won't look for trouble with you? Yinmu explained. Who is Zhu Zhen? Ningyu was puzzled. Zhu Zhen is a genius of the 9-Furnace Divine Pavilion's first branch. He is also the first branch's saint's son. In the nine-furnace divine pavilion, there is a rule that every branch's saintess must unconditionally marry a saint's son when they are 20 years old. Yin Mu continued. I got it. Ningyu nodded and murmured. Yin Mu had already made it very clear. Even if Ningyu was a pig, he would still be able to guess the ins and outs of the matter. Zhu Zhen and Yin Mu were respectively the nine-furnace divine pavilion's first branches, saint's son and saintess. Among them, Zhu Zhen secretly controlled the nine-furnace divine pavilion's 7th, 8th, and 9th branches. Ningyu had killed many geniuses of the nine-furnace divine pavilion's 7th to 9th branches. Naturally, he had formed a grudge with Zhu Zhen. If I'm not wrong, then Miss Yin Mu also has a grudge with Zhu Zhen. Ningyu lightly said, as the saying goes, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. That's why you came looking for me. But I have a little doubt. How did you know that I would definitely agree? Because you have no other choice. Yin Mu said, Zhu Zhen has already personally issued the 9 cauldrons killing order. You might not be aware of it, but I can tell you clearly that Zhu Zhen once issued the 9 cauldrons killing order to a second-grade mortal sovereign. That second-grade mortal sovereign only lived for half a month before meeting the King of Hell. After a slight hesitation, Ningyu calmly said, What do you want me to do? I want you to pretend to be my boyfriend. Yin Mu smiled. Yin Mu's request was very funny, but Ningyu couldn't bring himself to laugh. You're forcing me onto a dead end. Ningyu found a chair and sat down. He placed his hands behind his head and lightly said, Ningyu wasn't a hothead. Since Yin Mu had found him, he must have investigated his movements during this period of time. Perhaps Yin Mu even knew his true strength. If he agreed to Yin Mu's request at this time, it would be the same as becoming enemies with the 9-furnace divine pavilion's first branch's saint's son, Zhu Zhen. Before figuring out Zhu Zhen's true strength, Ningyu wouldn't easily agree. Sir Ning must be joking. Yin Mu blinked his eyes, his appearance very moving. He said, I've already used all my connections to suppress the matter of you killing Gu Yuan and the others. Currently, in the 9 cauldrons divine pavilion, besides Zhu Zhen and me, only Supremacy Marshal knows about this. Dong, dong, dong. Ningyu glanced at Supremacy Marshal and then lightly tapped his fingers on the table. What is Zhu Zhen's cultivation? After a while, Ningyu asked. Half-step supremacy, Yin Mu replied. What do you want me to do? Ningyu asked. It's very simple. 3 days from now, Supremacy Marshal and I will head to the magical Beast Mountain Range. At that time, you just need to come with us. Yin Mu said, No problem. We'll meet again. After saying this, Ningyu left the room without looking back. Aunt Yun, do you think Ningyu can be trusted? Yin Mu said to the Talisman Marshal Venerable the moment Ningyu left. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely be shocked. In just a blink of an eye, the Talisman Marshal Venerable had transformed into a charming and noble lady. She disguised herself as a man. Her methods were truly profound. She was actually able to escape Ningyu's eyes. A few days have passed since Zhu Zhen issued the 9 Cauldrons bounty. Ningyu was able to arrive at Profound Sky City unscathed. This is enough to prove his strength and ability. Aunt Yun said calmly. According to a reliable source, Ningyu has already become a key figure in the struggle for power. Let's first tie him tightly to us. Even if we encounter danger in the magical Beast Mountain Range, we will have an additional layer of protection. Aunt Yun, does Ningyu really have such good luck? Yin Mu hesitated. Before coming to Profound Sky City, I once asked Elder Tianji to personally perform a divination. Aunt Yin took a deep breath and said, The divination shows that the magical Beast Mountain Range is surrounded by a violet aura. Someone will definitely rise to power. But how can you be sure that the rising person will be Ningyu? Yin Mu asked, puzzled. Elder Tianji once taught me the aura-gazing technique. Just now, I saw that Ningyu's forehead was full, and there was a faint violet aura circling above his head. From this, it can be seen that this child is definitely extraordinary. Aunt Yin said, Also, Zhu Zhen spread the word that in 3 days, he will find you to marry and enjoy the intimacy of husband and wife. Oof. Wishful thinking. Yin Mu coldly snorted and said, Zhu Zhan is a sinister and cunning person. In order to achieve his goals, he will do anything. The only reason he wants to marry me is to make me his cauldron. Chapter 885. Soul Harmonizing Pill. Chapter 885. Soul Harmonizing Pill. Because he had to prepare for the trip to the magical Beast Mountain Range in 3 days, Ningyu didn't linger on the streets after leaving Scattering Flower House. He directly returned to the Ning family. In short, this trip wasn't completely fruitless. After all, he knew that Zhu Zhan had issued a 9-Calder Divine Pavilion's first branch's Saint Son. Yin Mu was the 9-Calder Divine Pavilion's first branch's Saint Daughter. Her strength was obviously terrifying. If even she was afraid of Zhu Zhan, then he must be very strong. Thus, Ningyu urgently needed to increase his strength in a short period of time. At the very least, he had to increase his cultivation to the peak of the early manifestation realm in 3 days. After returning to the Ning family, Ningyu first gathered everyone in the Ning family and answered their questions for 3 to 4 hours. Then, he announced that he would go into seclusion. Before Ningyu went into seclusion, he ordered 2 things. First, the Red Devil and Duan Sheng would answer the Ning family's questions for an hour every day. Second, Duan Sheng would refine pills for the Ning family. After finishing all of this, Ningyu shut himself in his room. He set up a small array formation at the entrance, completely sealing it off. Shua. Ningyu didn't immediately start cultivating. Instead, he took out the golden box that he had found on Supremacy Yin Tian's body. The golden box had 6 sides, and each side had a golden lock. Go! Ningyu flicked his finger. A cold light flew out, splitting into 6 and hitting the golden lock. Ding! A crisp sound rang out. The cold light turned into nothingness. It can actually swallow soul force. Ningyu fell in a deep thought. In order to open the golden lock as soon as possible, the cold light he had flicked out just now was soul force. If even soul force was swallowed, then this golden lock would be very difficult to open. After thinking for a moment, Ningyu flicked his wrist, and the Red Devil sword appeared in his hand. Since the golden lock had the ability to swallow soul force, Ningyu didn't waste any more time. He planned on using the Red Devil sword to cut in half. The Red Devil sword was an Emperor-ranked flying sword. If it couldn't cut the golden lock in half, then Ningyu would be done for. Kacha! The Red Demon sword did not disappoint Ningyu. The flying sword struck a golden lock. The golden lock struggled for a moment before falling to the ground. Ka ka ka, ka ka ka. Then, Ningyu slashed 5 times in a row. When the sword was unsheathed, the golden locks would definitely be broken. After 5 strikes, the remaining 5 golden locks all fell to the ground. Ningyu was not a rash person. He took a step back, and the essence chi in his sea of consciousness surged out, wrapping around the golden box. Before knowing what was inside the golden box, Ningyu would not take the risk of opening it at close range. Xiao. Ningyu withdrew a king-grade origin crystal from his spatial ring and abruptly tossed it towards the golden box. Bang! A crisp sound rang out as the golden box abruptly cracked open. Pills! Ningyu stared at the silver-white elixir lying in the golden box with shock written all over his face. Although the golden box was wrapped in essence chi, Ningyu could still sense the terrifying aura emitted from the elixir. Spirit harmonizing pill. No matter what, Ningyu was also a pinnacle 9th grade alchemist in his previous life. Thus, he could easily determine the grade of the elixir before him. Pinnacle 8th grade elixir, spirit harmonizing pill. Although the spirit harmonizing pill was only a pinnacle 8th grade elixir, it could be ranked in the top few among the 8th grade elixirs. Generally speaking, the spirit harmonizing pill was used by pinnacle manifestation realm cultivators to break through to the supremacy realm. Supremacy Yin Tian was a pinnacle 1st grade human sovereign. Logically speaking, the spirit harmonizing pill wouldn't be of much use to him. Furthermore, the spirit-harmonizing pill before him was at most a pinnacle manifestation realm cultivator. The effects would be great for pinnacle manifestation realm cultivators, but it would be much weaker for pinnacle first-grade human sovereigns. Come here. After pondering for a brief moment, Ningyu shook his wrist and directly grabbed the spirit-harmonizing pill. What? Just as he grabbed the spirit-harmonizing pill in his hand, Ningyu revealed a shocked expression. The reason why Ningyu was shocked was because he realized that the spirit-harmonizing pill in his hand was actually a semi-finished product. A semi-finished spirit-harmonizing pill was already a supreme-grade elixir. One could imagine that once it was completed, it would at least be a transcendent-grade elixir. Even though Ningyu was experienced and knowledgeable, he rarely saw a transcendent-grade 8th-grade elixir. The higher the grade of the elixir, the harder it was to refine a transcendent-grade elixir. Transcendent-grade elixir rarely appeared in the entire Sky Devil territory from grade 8 and above. So, there's a problem with the ratio of medicinal ingredients. Ningyu stared at the spirit-harmonizing pill in his hand. Finally, with his super experience, he concluded that this spirit-harmonizing pill was only a semi-finished product because there was a problem with the ratio of ingredients. One of the ingredients had a slightly higher ratio than the other. Is there a chance to refine it? Ningyu fell into deep thought. If he consumed a supreme-grade spirit-harmonizing pill, there was a high possibility that he would break through to the peak of the early-stage manifestation realm. If he wanted to break through to the mid-stage manifestation realm, it would be very difficult with the terrifying capacity of his sea of consciousness. If it was a transcendent-grade spirit-harmonizing pill, even if his sea of consciousness was slightly larger, it would not be a problem for him to advance to the mid-stage manifestation realm. I'll risk it. Without thinking too much, Ningyu took out his alchemy furnace and adjusted his mental state to its peak before throwing the supreme-grade spirit-harmonizing pill into the alchemy furnace. If the strength of Ningyu's soul force was only at the peak of the 6th grade, he would definitely not take this risk. However, his soul force had advanced to the early stage of the 7th grade. If he returned the alchemy furnace to refine the spirit-harmonizing pill, he would have a 30% to 40% success rate. On the path of alchemy, if one could have such a high success rate, it was worth the risk. Go in. Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He dragged the alchemy furnace with his left hand and poured an endless stream of essence into the furnace. At the same time, Ningyu poured out all his early-stage 7th-grade soul force and poured it into the alchemy furnace. Sizzle. As time passed, a sizzling sound came from the alchemy furnace. Rumble. The sound grew louder and louder, so much so that it produced an earth-shattering rumble. Suppress it. Ningyu's powerful soul force completely suppressed the alchemy furnace. Under the suppression of Ningyu's soul force, the alchemy furnace gradually regained its calm. Drip, drip. Time passed minute by minute. The spirit-harmonizing pill was refined again, and the proportion of ingredients was redistributed. Bang! An hour later, a muffled sound rang out, and the pill lid flew off. A silver-white pill flew out from the alchemy furnace. Ningyu's eyes and hands were sharp, and he steadily caught the pill in his hand. A transcendent-grade, spirit-harmonizing pill. Looking at the spirit-harmonizing pill in his hand, Ningyu let out a long breath, a hint of excitement appearing on his face. With no time to think, Ningyu flicked his wrist and directly threw the transcendent-grade, spirit-harmonizing pill into his mouth. The spirit-harmonizing pill melted in his mouth, turning into a warm current that flowed continuously in Ningyu's body. Ningyu hurriedly sat down cross-legged, and the 5th level of the spirit transformation technique circulated rapidly, continuously refining the medicinal power of the spirit-harmonizing pill in his body. The terrifying energy was guided by the spirit transformation technique, first circulating a few rounds in Ningyu's body before entering his consciousness. A golden core was lying flat in his consciousness. Sensing the incoming energy, the golden core instantly erupted with a terrifying, devouring force. completely devouring the energy into its body. Crack! Just as the golden core devoured the energy into its body, a faint cracking sound could be heard. Chapter 886. Leave it to its own devices. Chapter 886. Self-destruction. The golden core had shattered. At this moment, Ningyu thought of a terrifying possibility. In the process of cultivation, there was a possibility that the golden core could not withstand the terrifying energy and would shatter. The shattering of the golden core was extremely terrifying. The best-case scenario was that the consciousness would be destroyed, and the worst-case scenario was death on the spot. Suppress it. Ningyu quickly immersed his consciousness into his consciousness and began to suppress the golden core. In order to completely suppress the golden core, Ningyu even controlled his early-stage grade 7 soul force into his consciousness without reservation. Crack, crack. Although Ningyu was trying his best to compress the golden core, it was still emitting cracking sounds as more and more cracks appeared on it. Damn it! Seeing that the golden core was about to shatter, Ningyu cursed. Crack! At this moment, a shocking sound came from Ningyu's consciousness. Rumble! Ningyu felt like his entire head was a paste, and his consciousness gradually became blurry. After an unknown period of time, when Ningyu woke up again, his head was still a little muddled. Golden core! After a brief moment of clarity, Ningyu quickly used his senses to enter his consciousness. What he saw made Ningyu freeze on the spot. There was no golden core in his consciousness. The entire consciousness was empty, and he could not even see the shadow of the golden core. The golden core is gone. Ningyu's brows were tightly furrowed, and a puzzled expression appeared on his face. It did not make sense. It did not make sense at all. A martial artist's golden core would appear after advancing to the primordial core realm. It would only completely disappear the moment one advanced to the supremacy realm. Ningyu is only at the early stage manifestation realm. No, he should be at the mid-stage manifestation realm. Ningyu was very confused. It was fine that the golden core in his consciousness had disappeared, but he had advanced to the mid-stage manifestation realm without even knowing it. What are all these things? Ningyu shook his head, trying hard to calm himself down. At the middle stage of the creation realm, the golden core in the sea of consciousness disappeared. This series of events was completely out of Ningyu's expectations. Buzz! Suddenly, a purple blurry ball of light appeared in Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Power of space. Sensing the sudden appearance of the purple ball of light in his knowledge sea, Ningyu revealed a look of ecstasy. Generally speaking, as long as a martial artist advanced to the yin-yang realm, they would be able to use spatial energy in a small area to fight their enemies. However, that spatial power and the one that appeared in Ningyu's sea of consciousness were two completely different concepts. The power of space in Ningyu's sea of consciousness, to be precise, should be called the law of space. In ancient times, it was said that only when a heavenly sovereign tried to break through to the half-saint realm would there be a trace of space law in their body. The spatial laws were extremely terrifying. Even if it was just a trace, it could instantly kill a supreme being. Ningyu could not understand why his sea of consciousness would produce the law of space. Let's see if we can control it. Ningyu released a wisp of his soul force and carefully approached the purple orb. Sizzle. As Ningyu's soul force approached, the purple light suddenly made a sizzling sound. Ningyu's face changed drastically, and he immediately retracted his soul force. Phew! Ningyu let out a long breath and muttered, "It seems that with my current strength, it will be very difficult for me to control the law of space." After pondering for a moment, Ningyu completely withdrew his soul force from his sea of consciousness. No matter what, the disappearance of the golden core was a blessing in disguise. His cultivation had advanced to the middle phase of the manifestation realm, and a trace of the law of space had appeared in his sea of consciousness out of nowhere. According to Ningyu's guess, The appearance of the law of space in his sea of consciousness was definitely related to supremacy Yun Tian. Now I'm lucky. Since he could not control the law of space in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu did not care about it. Instead, he briefly recalled the cultivation method of the 6th level of the spiritual transformation art and began to cultivate it. As his cultivation increased, Ningyu realized that the 5th level of the spiritual transformation art was no longer enough to support his cultivation. Therefore, it was urgent to cultivate the 6th level of the spiritual transformation art. Ningyu did not waste any time. Based on his previous life's experience, he immediately began to cultivate. Due to the experience from his previous life and the fact that Ningyu's soul force had advanced to the early phase of the 7th stage, his cultivation was very fast. In just a few hours, he had already grasped the 6th level of the spiritual transformation art. While Ningyu was slowly cultivating the spiritual transformation art, 3 young men suddenly appeared at the main entrance of the Ning family. One of the young men lifted his right foot and kicked the door of the Ning family. Boom! The door of the Ning family was only made of wood. Naturally, it did not even last for a moment and was kicked in half. Swoosh! 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 The door was kicked open, and the members of the Ning family instantly rushed out. The Dark Emperor and the Red Devil were among them. Behind them, Ouyinglin, Duan Cheng, and the others stood side by side. As for the patriarch of the Ning family, Ning He, and the elders of the Ning family, they stood at the back. Oh my, this is like poking a hornet's nest. So many monsters have appeared. Among the 3 young men, a man with a protruding mouth and cheeks curled his lips and said sinisterly, "Let's briefly talk about our purpose this time. Hand over Ningyu, and we'll spare your lives." Woof woof. On the Dark Emperor's shoulder, Furball barked at the young man with a protruding mouth and cheeks. A dog? The man with a protruding mouth and cheeks looked at Furball and said with a faint smile, "Not bad, not bad. This dog is not an ordinary dog. I can feel a trace of an ancient aura from it." Ancient my A*S. The Dark Emperor immediately cursed. Where did these barbarians come from? How dare they behave so atrociously here? In the Dark Emperor's opinion, the 3 young men in front of him did not have very high cultivation bases. The man with a protruding mouth and cheeks was the highest, but he was only in the late phase of the manifestation realm. As for the other 2, they were only in the middle phase of the manifestation realm. There was no need for Ningyu to make a move against martial artists with such strength. The Dark Emperor alone could easily kill them. Oomph. The man with a protruding mouth and cheeks snorted coldly. He then took out a token and threw it at the Dark Emperor. Pa! The Dark Emperor raised his front paw and caught the token firmly in his hand. Bounty order? Looking at the 3 eye-catching blood-red words on the token, the Dark Emperor casually tossed it to the side and said indifferently, "I don't care what kind of killing order it is or what kind of death order it is. In short, if you want to cause trouble here, you have to bring out the ability you should have." Sha. In a void not far from the Ning family, 2 martial artists were hidden. Ant Yun. Although the 3 of them do not have high cultivation bases, they are Zhu Zhan's capable subordinates. If the 3 of them join forces, even a grade 1 supreme being would have to suffer a grievance. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely realize that he knew the 2 martial artists. One was the talisman martial supremacy, and the other was Yin Mu. At this moment, Yin Mu frowned and said worriedly, "Ningyu's cultivation base is only in the early phase of the manifestation realm. If he can't handle it, should we step in and mediate?" Oomph. Remember, Ningyu is just a chess piece. If he can't even deal with these people, then there's no point in keeping him alive. A dark and cold expression appeared on Aunt Yun's face as she spoke viciously. Chapter 887. Ho 3, you're quite a funny dog. Since you want me to show my strength, I'll do as you wish. The corners of the monkey-like man's mouth curled up into an arc. Then, his figure flashed as he charged towards the Dark Emperor at an extremely fast speed. In the face of the monkey-faced man's attack, the Dark Emperor remained expressionless, and he was even teasing Furball on his shoulder. Humph, you're about to die, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. I'll send you to heaven. Being looked down upon in front of so many people, the monkey-like man snorted coldly. Violent yuan qi fluctuations appeared on his fist as he punched toward the Dark Emperor's head. The sharp-mouthed monkey was called Ho-San, and he was the #1 expert under Zhuzhan. His strength could reach 1/10 of Zhuzhan's. The other two men were called Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu. Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu aren't very strong, but they are at least 1/20th of Zhuzhan's strength. Whoosh! Whoosh! Seeing that Ho-San was charging towards the Dark Emperor, Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu flew out together, targeting the people behind the Dark Emperor. Silver Winged Dragon, Twin-Horned Beast, follow me to face the enemy. Hong Mo's expression changed as he growled. Silver Winged Dragon, Twin-Horned Beast, you two are responsible for protecting the rest of the Ning family. Protection? Can you protect us? Zhang Wu coldly said. Zhao Lu, I'll leave these pieces of trash to you. I'll deal with the others, no problem, Zhao Lu answered. What happened in front of the main entrance of the Ning family caused everyone to discuss it. The people of Tianxian City didn't know about the great battle that took place in the Ning family a few days ago. However, it could be said that everyone in Tianxian City knew that the battle had taken place in front of the Ning family. It's over. The Ning family is finished. Isn't that right? The man with a protruding mouth and ape-like chin is at the advanced stage of the Fate Realm, and the other two are also at the intermediate stage of the Fate Realm. Sigh, I don't know how the Ning family provoked such a terrifying person. Didn't you hear? The man with a protruding mouth and ape-like chin said at the beginning that they came here mainly to find Ningyu, and they even brought a kill order. If I were Ningyu, I would run away immediately. Rumble. All kinds of discussions rose and fell. On the other side, the battle had already begun. Among them, the Red Devil and the Silver Winged Dragon were holding Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu back. Although Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu had the upper hand, it would be extremely difficult for them to kill the Red Devils in a short amount of time. On the Dark Emperor's side, the situation was very critical. Although the Dark Emperor didn't say anything, no one knew Ho-San's strength better than him. How can this guy be so strong? His cultivation is only at the late stage of the manifestation realm, but his true strength is close to that of a grade 1 supreme human. The Dark Emperor was in agony. If not for Furball's help, he would have already met his maker. Ho-San was indeed very powerful. He was a peerless genius of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion, and his cultivation was at the late manifestation realm. In the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion's first branch, there were only a few geniuses that could suppress Ho-San. With Ho-San's strength, it was more than enough for him to stand firm within the 9 Furnace Divine Pavilion. Even he unconditionally submitted to Zhuzhan. From this, it could be seen just how terrifying Zhuzhan's strength was. Damn dog, I want to have dog meat hot pot today. After not being able to kill the Dark Emperor in 3 minutes, Ho-San was furious to the extreme. He had boasted in front of Zhuzhan that he would bring Ningyu's head to him in 6 hours. But now, he couldn't even kill a black dog quickly. How could he bring Ningyu's head to Zhuzhan in 6 hours? Thus, Ho-San forced the Dark Emperor back with one move. His palm reached deep into his robes and pulled out a green flying sword. King Mid-Grade Flying Sword. The flying sword in Ho-San's hand was a King Mid-Grade Flying Sword, the green leather sword. Holding the green leather sword, Ho-San instantly rushed out. Chi-Chi. The green leather sword made contact with the air, emitting a Chi-Chi sound. Furball, go and inform that brat Ningyu to come over. Feeling the terrifying power contained in the flying sword, the Dark Emperor's expression changed. He hurriedly pushed Furball away and said in a low voice, I'll hold him here for now. Woof woof. Furball barked twice before leaving. Want to leave? It won't be that easy. Seeing that Furball wanted to leave, Ho-San quickly waved the green leather sword in his hand. The sword gleam that was originally aimed at the Dark Emperor was directed at Furball instead. Block it. Since he had already decided to let Furball inform Ningyu, the Dark Emperor naturally wouldn't let him be stopped. Therefore, the Dark Emperor opened his mouth and swallowed the sword gleam that Ho-San had slashed out in front of everyone. Swoosh! The Dark Emperor's sudden move left everyone dumbfounded, including Ho-San. Even Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu, who were on the other side, were dumbfounded. What the hell? Isn't this too exaggerated? Gulp! Ho-San swallowed a mouthful of saliva and looked at the Dark Emperor in shock. You dare to swallow the sword gleam of a late-stage manifestation realm martial artist with a king mid-grade flying sword? Do you really have the strength, or are you just putting up a front? Bang! 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 The next moment, a series of muffled sounds came from the Dark Emperor's stomach. Ha! I was wondering how powerful you are. So, you're just a wax head with a silver spear. Hearing the muffled sounds, Ho-San laughed maniacally. You can't even block 30% of my sword gleam. You can go to hell. Burp! However, before Ho-San could continue attacking, the Dark Emperor burped and said calmly, I'm sorry. The sword gleam is a little big, so it's a little hard to digest. I've kept you waiting. If the Dark Emperor's swallowing of the sword gleam had shocked everyone, then the Dark Emperor's words now completely dumbfounded them. That's too terrifying. You can even devour such a powerful sword gleam. Are you a devouring beast? I don't care what you're up to, but you won't be able to escape today. Ho-San snorted coldly and immediately rose from the ground, charging towards the Dark Emperor again. Ho-San did not believe that a dog could be so powerful. In Ho-San's opinion, the Dark Emperor must be pretending and must be in imminent danger. You want him to be unable to escape? At this moment, an indifferent voice came from the void. Who is it? Ho-San was slightly stunned when he heard that voice. Then, he said coldly, Stop sneaking around and come out. Haha, aren't you looking for me? The voice came from the void again. If you're capable, you can blast me out. Playing tricks. Ho-San's eyes turned cold as he stabbed the flying sword in his hand at the Dark Emperor. Actually, Ho-San was right. In order to suppress the sword gleam in his body, the Dark Emperor was already at the end of his rope. As expected, the Dark Emperor could no longer free himself to deal with Ho-San. However, after hearing the voice from the void, the Dark Emperor knew that he was safe. Looking at Ho-San, who was flying towards him, and the King Intermediate Grade flying sword in Ho-San's hand, the Dark Emperor immediately sat down and closed his eyes. Giving up? The Dark Emperor's actions made Ho-San's heart skip a beat. Chapter 888. Unexpected. Is that black dog an idiot? Why isn't it fighting back? Fighting back. Didn't you notice that the black dog is already at the end of its rope and has no more fighting power? Sigh. The Ning family is facing a great calamity this time. They might be removed from Tianxian City. What? Before the last cultivator could finish sighing, his eyes widened in shock as he stared at the skinny figure that had appeared beside Ho-San at some point in time. Puff! A crisp sound rang out. Suddenly, the area became quiet. Even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mysterious. I'm just thinking about how to kill you. Ningyu pulled out the red demon sword from Ho-San's chest and said calmly, I wanted to let you live a little longer, but since you want to die, I can only send you on your way. Ningyu! Ho-San clenched his fists and gritted his teeth as he stared at the skinny figure in front of him. I admit that you're strong, but it won't be that easy to kill me. Swoosh! Ho-San immediately counterattacked. He waved the mid-grade king level flying sword in his hand. In an instant, several sword rays flew out. Each sword ray contained a violent wave of primordial qi. They fiercely attacked Ningyu's head. Ho-San had promised Zhuzhan that he would bring Ningyu's head to him. Therefore, Ho-San's goal was clear. He wanted to cut off Ningyu's head. Solitaire! Ningyu let out a soft cry. He immediately waved the red demon sword and slashed out a sword wave. The sword ray and sword ray collided. Without a doubt, Ningyu's sword ray was slightly stronger. It easily dispersed Ho-San's sword ray. What? Ningyu's attack seemed ordinary, but it shocked Yun Mu. Aunt Yun, did you see it clearly? Ningyu's attack. Yinmu's mouth was slightly agape as she said in surprise, "This child is indeed extraordinary. Looks like what Tianji Lauren said was true." Aunt Yin nodded. "He might be a variable in this trip to the mountain range of magical beasts." "Yeah, how long has it been?" "I can clearly feel that his strength has more than doubled." Yinmu took a deep breath and said, "If this continues, I'm afraid that in a few days, even I won't be able to suppress him." "It's fine. As long as I am around, he will not be able to do much. On the contrary, the stronger he is, the more advantageous it will be for us. It would be best if he grows to the point where he can contend against Zhuzhan. That way, with him restraining Zhuzhan, we will be able to successfully escape." Aunt Yin waved her hand and said, very good. You have completely angered me." Seeing that Ningyu had easily blocked his sword ray, Ho-san was not angry. Instead, he calmed down. Twisting his neck, Ho-san said indifferently, "Next, I will let you know what true strength is." "Why do you have so much to say? What were you doing just now? Why are you only showing me what true strength is now?" Ningyu shrugged and curled his lips. "You are only at the late stage of the manifestation realm. How strong can you be? Oh, right. You might want to use some beast technique. The kind that turns yourself into a beast. Once you use it, even I will be afraid. I'm so angry. I will grind your bones to dust." Ho-san roared a few times into the sky when he was ridiculed by Ningyu in public. After that, he put away the mid-grade king rank flying sword, and then a terrifying fluctuation of energy appeared on his wrist as he smashed his fist towards Ningyu's head. At first, Ho-san wanted to chop off Ningyu's head and show it to Zhuzhan. But now, Ho-san changed his mind. He wanted to blow up Ningyu's head and let Ningyu know what true strength was. "Dark Emperor, if you want to meditate, can you go somewhere else?" At this moment, Ningyu turned around and complained to the Dark Emperor. Ningyu's action caused the surrounding onlookers to be dumbfounded. Ho-san's fist, which contained a terrifying amount of essence energy, came at you. Not only did you not block it, but you even talked to the black dog on the ground. Was he blind? Air-killing fist. At first, Ho-san was a little nervous. After all, he was worried that Ningyu would suddenly go berserk. However, when he realized that Ningyu did not seem to care about him, he was secretly delighted. "I will let you have a taste of the air-killing fist." Ho-san seemed to be able to see Ningyu's miserable state when his head was blown up. "Aunt Yin, what is Ningyu doing?" Yinmu frowned and asked in the void. If she did not know that Ningyu was powerful, she would have suspected that Ningyu had a problem with his ears. "I don't know either," Aunt Yin said with a serious expression. "Aunt Yin, hurry up and help," Yinmu said. "Wait a little longer. I want to see what Ningyu is up to," Aunt Yin said. Drip, drip. Time passed bit by bit. Ho-san's fist was getting closer and closer to Ningyu, but Ningyu still looked calm, as if everything had nothing to do with him. Aunt Yin, seeing that Ho-san was about to hit Ningyu, Yinmu hurriedly said, "Okay." Aunt Yin shouted and waved her hands, trying to tear the void. Crack! However, before Aunt Yin could completely tear the void, she suddenly stopped in midair. That was because a crisp sound had reached his ears. How? How is this possible? Aunt Yin was instantly dumbfounded, her eyes filled with horror. Yinmu, who was next to her, covered his mouth with his hand. His eyes were wide open as if he had seen a ghost. What followed was a scream like that of a pig being slaughtered. Ho-san's body retreated a few feet. His right hand was clenched, and beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. What? Am I blind? You're not blind. This really happened. It's very real. Ho-san is a martial artist in the late stage of the manifestation realm. If even he is not Ningyu's opponent, then how terrifying is Ningyu's strength? The surrounding martial artists all looked toward the entrance of the Ning family. The figure standing at the entrance of the Ning family was like a god of war, emitting a terrifying aura. Anyone who trespasses into the Ning family will die. As the word die fell from his mouth, Ningyu's figure gradually became illusory. Not good. The moment Ningyu disappeared, Ho-san's expression changed drastically. Puff. It was too late for Ho San to think of escaping. Ningyu appeared beside him, and the red demon sword in his hand quickly stabbed forward. The sound of a flying sword piercing flesh rang out. Hosen lowered his head to look at the blood-red flying sword stuck in his heart. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something ruthless, but before he could say anything, he fell to the ground. Bang! When Hosan's body hit the ground, the surroundings were silent. The silence was extremely terrifying, 10,000 times more terrifying than before. Let's go. Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu, who were at the side, looked at each other, then rose from the ground and fled into the distance. Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu were not fools. Even Ho San, who was in the late stage of the manifestation realm, had been easily killed. If they stayed, it would be the same as seeking death. Chapter 889. Show up, however. Ningyu was not an idiot. How could he let Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu escape just like that? Trying to escape after failing to kill? How can there be such a good thing in this world? After saying that, Ningyu put away the red magic sword, stomped on the ground, and rushed out. Whoosh! Ningyu's speed was very fast. Before Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu could get far, Ningyu had already caught up to them. Bang! Bang! After catching up, Ningyu naturally did not hold back and threw out multiple punches. Oh! The pain from the punches on their bodies made Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu let out hysterical screams. Fight! Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu were smart. After knowing that they could not escape, they immediately decided to fight to the death with Ningyu. Now was the exact opposite. Escape meant death. If they stayed, there was still a chance of survival. Fight? What do you have to fight me with? Ningyu laughed coldly. Immediately, the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness wrapped around his fist and suddenly punched out. Pew pew. Ningyu's punches were very fast. So fast that Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu could only see a shadow before they were already in front of them. Invincible punch. Zhang Wu's eyes revealed a fierce look. Similarly, he pushed out his right hand, which collided with Ningyu's fist. Crack! Ah! A crisp sound accompanied by a pig-like squeal rang out in the area. Then, Zhang Wu's body, like a kite with a broken string, fell backward. Whoosh! After defeating Zhang Wu in one move, Ningyu did not hold back. He once again punched at Zhao Lu. Bang! Zhao Lu's strength was similar to Zhang Wu's. Even Zhang Wu could not block Ningyu's fist, let alone him. The result was surprisingly consistent. Zhao Lu directly made contact with the ground and fell flat on his face. Voila! Although everyone had already guessed that Ningyu would be able to easily defeat Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu, but when Ningyu really defeated them, everyone still showed a shocked expression. He killed Ho San, who was in the late stage of the Blessed Realm, and easily defeated Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu, who were in the middle stage of the Blessed Realm. How powerful was Ningyu? Could he be at the peak of the Creation Realm? Impossible. Ningyu can't possibly be at the peak of the Creation Realm. No matter what, in this half a year, Ningyu has made rapid progress. That's right. I'm afraid that from today onwards, the Ning family will truly rise. Even in the great Xia kingdom, they will be able to occupy a place of their own. Ignoring the discussions of the crowd, Ningyu's feet moved. He arrived in front of Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu and said, "The Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion is truly tyrannical. If they want to kill someone, they directly issue a Nine-Furnace killing order." Humph! Don't be so proud. The Saint Sun is near Profound Sky City. As long as you dare kill us, the Saint Sun will definitely grind your bones to dust. Zhang Wu and Zhao Lu coldly snorted. Grind my bones to dust. I've heard this phrase many times. It doesn't have any effect on me, Ningyu lightly said. Is your Saint Sun called Zhu Zhun, a half-step supreme being? In fact, Ningyu had already learned from Yunmu that the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion's first branch's Saint Sun, Zhu Zhun, was a half-step supreme being. The reason why Ningyu asked again was because he didn't trust Yunmu. There was no reason for Yunmu to find him. Therefore, before going to the magical Beast Mountain range with Yunmu, Ningyu had to understand the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion situation. Aunt Yun, What does Ningyu want to do? In the air, Yinmu heard Ningyu's words and faintly felt that something was wrong. What else can he do? It's already very obvious. He wants to understand the nine-furnace divine pavilion and doesn't want to be restricted by us. Aunt Yun was an understanding person. She was very clear on what Ningyu wanted to do. Ningyu had played this trick before when she was young. It couldn't fool her. What should we do? Yinmu hesitated. It's simple. You stay here. I'll be right back. The corners of Aunt Yun's lips curled up. Her figure suddenly disappeared. As soon as Aunt Yun disappeared, Ningyu's eyebrows shot up. He realized that something was wrong. Bang! In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, before Ning-Yu could even react, Aunt Yun had already arrived in front of Zhang Wu. Her fist punched out, directly hitting Zhang Wu's heart. A crisp sound rang out. Zhang Wu's eyelids rolled back. He died on the spot. After Zhang Wu died, Aunt Yun sent out another palm strike, this one aimed at Zhao Lu. 3 lives palm. At this critical moment, Ning-Yu gathered all the origin energy in his spiritual sea onto his wrist and thrust out his palm. Pa! The 2 palms collided. 2 figures rapidly retreated. Pucci! Ning-Yu retreated all the way to the Ning family's front gate before stabilizing himself. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Ning-Yu's expression was extremely gloomy. As for Aunt Yun, she immediately left after failing to land a single strike. Where do you think you're going? Seeing that the person who ambushed him wanted to leave, the Dark Emperor shouted and wanted to rush out. Stay here obediently. Ning-Yu kicked the Dark Emperor's body and coldly said, the other party is a sovereign human. Her strength is incomparably strong. If you go, you'll just be courting death. Sovereign human? Hearing this, besides the Dark Emperor, even the Red Devil and the others were stunned, because that palm just now didn't look like it came from a sovereign human. She only used 50% of her strength in that palm strike. Perhaps seeing the confusion on the Dark Emperor's face, Ning-Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, take Zhao Lu away and find a way to pry open his mouth. I want to know everything about the 9 Cauldrons divine pavilion. Yes. For this, the Dark Emperor was the best at it. He responded, then dragged Zhao Lu towards the Ning clan. Sha. At this time, 2 figures tore through the void and slowly landed in front of the Ning family. Looking at the 2 familiar figures in front of him, Ning-Yu's heart skipped a beat. He had an answer in his heart, but Ning-Yu was a little puzzled. The martial artist who attacked just now was a woman, and the one beside Yinmu was a talisman martial supreme. Could it be that there was a powerful martial artist hiding behind Yinmu? Thinking of this, Ning-Yu said without batting an eyelid, Miss Yun, I wonder what brings you here this time. Haha, can't I come for no reason? Yinmu faintly smiled and said, when the Ning family was in danger, this little girl was busy and couldn't help in time. I hope you don't mind. It's fine, just a few small shrimps. I can handle them myself. Ning-Yu waved his hand and said, if there's anything, let's talk inside. There are too many people here. It's not convenient to communicate. Wait. Suddenly, the Talisman Marshal Supreme took a step forward and pointed at Zhao Lu. He said in a low voice, I don't think this martial artist should stay in this world. Oh, why do you say that? Ning-Yu's eyebrows twitched, puzzled. The 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion has a secret technique. Once it is used, everyone within several miles will sense it. The Talisman Marshal Supreme lightly said, Zhao Lu is a member of the 9 Cauldrons Divine Pavilion's first branch. If he uses this secret technique, Zhu Jin might personally come. Chapter 890. One move. Oh. Ning-Yu's brows raised when he heard this, and he looked at the Talisman Marshal Sovereign with interest as he spoke. What senior means is that I should kill Zhao Lu right now. That's right. The Talisman Supremacy's tone was firm. Maybe you don't know Zhu Zhen's true strength. Zhu Zhen can kill Zhao Lu and Ho San in a breath's time. If Zhu Zhen rushes over now, the consequences will be unimaginable. As the Talisman Supremacy spoke, Ning-Yu stared into his eyes, hoping to find some clues. However, The talisman supremacy was very calm and did not reveal any clues. Ningyu, the talisman supremacy is right. Zhao Lu cannot be left alive. He must be killed on the spot. Suddenly, Yunmu took a step forward and said, "Whoosh." As soon as he finished speaking, Yunmu stomped on the ground, and his body instantly shot out. His target was Zhao Lu. Seeing Yunmu make a move, Ningyu's face turned a little ugly, but he still did not stop him, because at this moment, the talisman supremacy's attention was on him. If he dared to stop him, the talisman supremacy would definitely not ignore it. "Hee, you want to make a move? You'll have to get through me first." The talisman supremacy snickered in his heart. Then, a powerful aura was released and crazily pressed towards Ningyu. Crack! Being suppressed by the powerful aura, Ningyu only felt a soreness in his knees. He couldn't help but kneel down. "Oof, I thought you were a grade 2 human supreme. So you're the same as the Cloud Sky Supremacy, a peak grade 1 human supreme." Ningyu snorted and gathered the energy in his sea of consciousness on the surface of his body, trying his best to resist the Talisman Supremacy's aura. Although the Talisman Supremacy's aura was powerful, wanting to completely suppress Ning, you would be looking down on Ningyu. After advancing to the intermediate manifestation realm, Ningyu's strength had increased by more than a few folds. It could be said that if Ningyu, who was in the middle stage of the Fate Realm, fought against Ningyu, who was in the early stage of the Fate Realm, he would definitely be killed in an instant. Now, only a second-grade Supreme Martial Artist could completely suppress Ningyu. An ordinary Pinnacle Grade 1 human sovereign couldn't suppress him at all. At best, they could only give him some pressure. Roar! At this moment, the Dark Emperor looked at the approaching Yunmu and suddenly roared into the sky. Ka-ka! The terrifying shockwave even caused the space around them to shatter. "Hee, this black dog of yours isn't weak." Looking at the shockwaves rushing towards them, Yunmu's lips curved up. He faintly smiled and said, "Zhao Lu is someone from the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion. He must die today. Otherwise, not only will you suffer a calamity, but we will also suffer a calamity." Yunmu's palm lightly streaked across the air. Voila! In an instant, a piercingly cold light flew out. Under everyone's shocked gazes, it collided with the shockwave from the Dark Emperor's roar. When the two collided, there wasn't a one-sided situation. On the contrary, the cold light and the shockwave were evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. This change was clearly out of Yunmu's expectations. Yunmu stood in place and didn't continue to attack. Instead, he faintly said, "Not bad. You can actually block 10% of my strength. Next, I'll show you what true strength is." Boom! Yunmu closed his eyes and his aura crazily rose. Feeling the terrifying aura from Yunmu's body, the Dark Emperor was no longer arrogant. Instead, he revealed a serious expression. This was because the aura that Yunmu revealed made even the Dark Emperor feel a trace of unease. So, it's a half-step Supreme Martial Artist. Ningyu's gaze fell on Yunmu. He muttered, "Every martial artist from the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion is indeed a genius. Not only is their cultivation at the peak of their generation, but their combat strength is also terrifying." According to Ningyu's judgment, although Yunmu was only a half-step Supreme Martial Artist, his true strength was probably close to a peak first-grade human Supreme Martial Artist. The Dark Emperor was only at the early manifestation realm. How could he be Yunmu's opponent? Thinking of this, Ningyu calmly said, "Miss Yun, I'm untalented. I wonder if I can spar with you? You want to spar with me?" Originally, Yunmu wanted to use her aura to suppress the Dark Emperor. But after hearing Ningyu's words, she instantly retracted her aura. She asked doubtfully, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Ningyu nodded. "All right. If you can receive one of my moves, I won't kill Zhao Lu. Also, if Zhu Jun comes, I'll block him for you." Yunmu said, "Symbol Martial Supremacy. What do you think?" Ningyu didn't immediately reply to Yunmu. Instead, he turned around and said to the symbol Martial Supremacy. After being stared at by Ningyu, the symbol Martial Supremacy immediately retracted his aura. He lightly said, You first receive one of Yunmu's moves. We'll discuss the rest later. Ningyu received one of my moves. At this moment, Yunmu's feet stepped on the ground. His body instantly shot out. Yunmu's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Ningyu. Chi. Yunmu's right hand pushed out. His seemingly ordinary palm forced the air to scatter in all directions. Who is this woman? How can her strength be so terrifying? I really want to hear them talk about the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion. I wonder if she's someone from the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion. What kind of place is the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion? How come I've never heard of it? I've never heard of it either. Maybe it's some mysterious force. It wasn't that there weren't people around that knew of the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion. However, they weren't fools. Yunmu was so strong, and there was even a symbol martial supremacy who hadn't made a move yet. If they were to openly discuss the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion at this time, wasn't that courting death? Humph! As expected, the discussion of these martial artists aroused the dissatisfaction of the symbol martial supremacy. He coldly snorted and released a bit of his aura. Hiss! Feeling the terrifying aura emitted from the symbol martial supremacy, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A supremacy was indeed a supremacy. His strength was terrifying. Haha, what idiots! How can they discuss the Nine-Furnace Divine Pavilion at this time? A martial artist that knew the inside story coldly sneered. He looked at those deathly pale people as if they were looking at idiots. Before doing anything, it was best to think it through first. Otherwise, they would suffer a loss. The martial artist that knew the inside story hadn't even finished speaking when his eyes widened. His face was filled with disbelief. In front of him, Ningyu's right hand stretched out, unavoidable as it collided with Yunmu's palm. Shwa! Shwa! After a single move, the two figures rapidly retreated. Ningyu had to take 10 steps back before he could stabilize himself. However, Yunmu retreated even more than Ningyu. She retreated 11 steps before stabilizing herself. What? In the eyes of the onlookers, this step was nothing. But in the eyes of the symbol martial supremacy, this step was enough to prove Ningyu's strength. When masters exchange blows, even a distance of half a step was fatal. How could Ningyu's strength be so formidable? The symbol martial supremacy's face was dark and gloomy. There was an intense struggle in his heart. Chapter 891. Domain the Talisman Supremacy was a decisive person. He knew that Ningyu's attention was on Yunmu. This was the best time to kill Zhao Lu. Once Ningyu was free, it would be extremely difficult to kill Zhao Lu. So he decided to act first and report later, killing Zhao Lu immediately. Whoosh! The Talisman Supremacy was, after all, a peak first-grade supreme martial artist. His speed wasn't something an ordinary person could match. In an instant, he arrived beside Zhao Lu and threw a punch at Zhao Lu's head. The Talisman Supremacy was ruthless. He wanted to explode Zhao Lu's head. Ningyu's gaze was focused on the Talisman Supremacy. Especially when he saw that the Talisman Supremacy wanted to kill Zhao Lu, Ningyu snorted coldly. His hands tore through the air and disappeared. Hee, I don't believe that you can stop me from such a distance. Die. The Talisman Supremacy's lips curled up. It was as if he could see Zhao Lu's miserable state when he was killed. However, what happened next made the Talisman Supremacy's expression change. Bang! A crisp sound rang. The Talisman Supremacy's fist struck out. However, it didn't land on the Talisman Supremacy's head. Instead, it collided with another fighter's fist. Needless to say, the other fighter was Ningyu. How could you block my fist? The Talisman Supremacy's mouth was slightly agape. He even stuttered. Although he didn't use his full strength and only used 50% of his strength, it didn't make sense that a manifestation intermediate stage Ningyu could block it. One had to know that a punch with 50% of his strength was enough to kill any peak manifestation realm fighter. Talisman Supremacy, I address you as senior. Why did you break your promise and kill Zhao Lu? Ningyu's expression was a little ugly. The talisman supremacy didn't know how to appreciate his kindness. He had the urge to fight with the talisman supremacy here. But Ningyu was still rather rational. He knew that fighting with a talisman martial supremacy now, he might not necessarily be able to win. The reason he was able to kill Supremacy Yin Tian last time was because Supremacy Yin Tian only had 50% of his strength left. Right now, the Talisman Martial Venerable was a genuine pinnacle first-grade human sovereign. I didn't break my promise. Talisman Supremacy's face darkened, and he said coldly, Yin Mu was the one who promised you, not me. Why can't I attack Zhao Lu? Lady Yin, what do you think of this matter? Ningyu knew that he couldn't communicate with Talisman Martial Supremacy, so he turned around and stared at Yin Mu. Yin Mu revealed an awkward expression. Actually, Yin Mu didn't approve of Talisman Martial Supremacy killing Zhao Lu here, but when she thought of what Zhao Lu knew, she was more fearful. How about this? Why don't we have a spar? If you can beat me, I won't kill Zhao Lu, and when Zhu Zhen comes over, I'll stop him. Venerable Talisman Marshal said, while rolling his eyes, I say, can't you have some shame? At this moment, the Dark Emperor couldn't stand it anymore. The Dark Emperor slowly walked to Ningyu's side and stared at Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy. He said in an exaggerated tone, if you lose to Ningyu later, will you also go back on your word? Crack. Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy was a pinnacle first-grade human sovereign. Being ridiculed by a dog in front of so many people, how could he endure it? His fists were clenched so tightly that crackling sounds could be heard. Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's eyes revealed a hint of ferocity as the aura around his body rose crazily. Rumble. Perhaps he felt that the speed at which his aura rose was a little slow. Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's body trembled, and a terrifying aura soared into the sky. What? That is second-grade human sovereign. A second-grade human sovereign actually appeared in Profound Sky City. This is too unbelievable. He shouldn't be a second-grade human sovereign. According to my observations, he's only a first-grade human sovereign. However, he's in his peak state and will advance to second-grade human sovereign at any time. A late manifestation realm warrior frowned his brows and said in a deep voice, Miss Yin, I would like to ask if our agreement is still valid. Ningyu didn't seem to be paying attention to whether or not Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's aura had grown stronger, or to what extent. His focus was on Yin Mu. Of course it's still valid. At this moment, Yin Mu definitely wouldn't deny his words. That's good. I only hope that when Zhu Jinjin comes over later, you can fulfill your promise and block him for me. Ningyu lightly smiled, then turned around and walked towards Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy. Ningyu walked very slowly, and he wasn't in a hurry at all. There was a saying that went like this. The emperor isn't in a hurry, but the eunuch is. Ningyu wasn't in a hurry, but Ouyang Luan and the rest were extremely anxious. Duan Cheng, when Ningyu really starts fighting with Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy, should we make a move? Ouyang Lin whispered to Duan Cheng, who was beside him. Do you think that we can change the outcome of the battle if we make a move? Duanshin clearly understood what was going on. Regardless of whether it was Ningyu or Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy, their strength was at the peak of the Profound Sky City. It was so much so that even those hidden old demons, there weren't many that could confront them. Publishing a book to help Ningyu was undoubtedly courting death. All right, what you said makes sense. Ouyang Lin nodded his head as he helplessly said. Ningyu didn't care about what others were thinking. At this moment, Ningyu felt that he was being led by the nose by Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy. In other words, Ningyu had already entered the range of Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's control. He's indeed extraordinary. Ordinary sovereign realm cultivators, even earth sovereigns, and even some heavenly sovereigns can't grasp a domain. Ningyu fixed his eyes on Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy as he said word by word, If I've not guessed wrongly, you're the cultivator that killed Zhang Wu earlier. You're not a man, but a woman. Clap, clap, clap. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy clapped her hands and said, "Your analysis is pretty good. Strictly speaking, mine can't be considered as a domain. It's only the embryonic form of a domain. Furthermore, you're truly not simple to be able to guess that I'm a woman." Russell. As she spoke, Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's hands gently swiped before her, revealing her true appearance. Honestly speaking, Ning Yu was stunned when he saw the true appearance of Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy. Although Ning Yu had lived 2 lifetimes, he had rarely seen a woman like Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy. Am I beautiful? Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy seemed to have expected that reaction from Ning Yu. She gently pursed her lips as a bewitching smile appeared on her face. Bewitching art. Ning Yu wasn't someone to be trifled with. He had seen many bewitching arts in his previous life, and even cultivators stronger than Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy had used them. If it wasn't for Ning Yu's low cultivation in this life, Ning Yu would have easily seen through a bewitching art of Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy's level. Haha! When Ning Yu said the words bewitching art, Venerable Talisman Martial Supremacy covered her mouth as she laughed. "I'm getting more and more interested in you." What a pity. Ning Yu's face was emotionless as he faintly said. Chapter 892. Strange changes, hee. You'll be interested in me. The Rune Martial Supremacy smiled. Her figure gradually turned illusory, and she disappeared in an instant. Seeing the Rune Martial Supremacy disappear, Ning Yu did not panic. Instead, he slowly closed his eyes, as if he was not facing a pinnacle first-grade human supreme, but an ordinary manifestation realm martial artist. Although Ning Yu's eyes were tightly shut, his powerful senses were fully unleashed, trying his best to detect the Rune Martial Supremacy's location. In the Rune Martial Supremacy's domain, Ning Yu had to be extremely careful. Swoosh! Suddenly, Ning Yu's tightly shut eyes snapped open. With a flick of his wrist, the red fiend's sword appeared in his hand, and he stabbed into the air. The seemingly ordinary sword strike exploded with extremely terrifying power. Piss. At that instant, the surrounding space even began to tremble. What? In the air, the Rune Martial Supremacy's expression changed drastically. One had to know that this area was her domain. Although it was only the embryonic form of her domain, the fact that Ning Yu could unleash such a terrifying strike within her domain was enough to prove Ning Yu's terrifying strength. Domain power. The Rune Martial Supremacy's expression was solemn. She waved her hands continuously, and the space in front of her began to distort. Terrifying indeed. Feeling the huge resistance from his wrist, Ning Yu instantly retracted the red fiend sword and said in a deep voice, "Rune Martial Supremacy, I just want to ask you one question. Zhao Lu, are you going to kill him or not? Actually, we don't have to do this." The Rune Martial Supremacy's eyes turned as she thought of a countermeasure. "As long as you can leave my domain, I promise not to kill Zhao Lu." The Rune Martial Supremacy was very shrewd. She was very confident in her domain. Although it was only the embryonic form of her domain, it would be extremely difficult for Ning Yu to break through it. Making a bet with Ning Yu was undoubtedly the best choice. After this exchange, the Rune Martial Supremacy had already treated Ning Yu as a top-notch genius, the kind that was second only to Zhu Zhan. "As you wish." Ning Yu frowned slightly and put away the red fiend sword in front of the Talisman Supremacy. "Haha, even this flying sword of yours is unable to break open my domain. Let me see how you—" "What?" The corners of the Talisman Martial Exalt's mouth curled up into a smile when he saw Ning Yu put away the red devil sword. The Talisman Supremacy's laughter had just sounded when it stopped abruptly, and he revealed a shocked expression. An extremely frightening wave of Yuan Qi appeared on Ning Yu's right hand before he pushed it forward. "Three lives palm." As Ning Yu shouted, a palm print that wasn't too big swept out. Voila! Wherever the palm print passed, even the space would distort. The distortion in space was even more terrifying than when the talisman martial supremacy unleashed his domain power. Rumble. When the space distorted to a certain limit, Ning Yu's palm print exploded. The immense explosive force directly blasted the talisman martial supremacy away. Not good. Retreat quickly. Hurry up and leave. It'll be too late if we delay any longer. Go, go, go. As the talisman martial supremacy unleashed his domain, the surrounding martial artists did not see the exchange between the talisman martial supremacy and Ning Yu. Martial artists who were not powerful could not see what was happening in the domain. Now that the 3 lives palm exploded, everyone reacted instantly and retreated. In front of the Ning family, the Dark Emperor, the Red Fiend, and the rest joined forces to set up a huge Yuan Qi light barrier, trying their best to withstand the power of the 3 lives palm explosion. How is this possible? Yin Mu took a deep breath, and her expression was solemn. Others might not know that the talisman martial supremacy had cultivated a domain, but she was crystal clear. Originally, in Yun Mu's opinion, once Ning Yu entered the talisman martial supremacy's domain, he would no longer have any room to resist. Now, it seemed that she was completely overthinking. The explosion came and went quickly. After everything had dissipated into thin air, everyone's gaze fell on the center of the battlefield. There, 2 figures stood with their hands behind their backs. The first figure had an emotionless expression, and it was no different from before. The second figure looked a little battered and exhausted. Talisman martial supremacy, I hope you can fulfill your promise. Looking at the battered and exhausted talisman martial supremacy, Ning Yu said indifferently, "Don't mention Zhao Lu's matter in the future. 2 days later, let's meet at the city gate of Tianxin City." Leaving this sentence, Ning Yu walked towards the Ning family without turning back. Wait. The talisman martial supremacy's expression was gloomy, and he called out to Ning Yu, "Is there anything else?" Ning Yu stopped and turned around to ask, "No need to wait for 2 days, leave today." The talisman martial supremacy said in a deep voice, "Leave today." Ning Yu frowned slightly, faintly feeling that things were not that simple. Roar. At this time, an earth-shattering roar sounded. What's going on? Judging from the sound, it seems to be coming from the city gate. Needless to say, I also know that it's coming from the city gate. What I want to ask is, what exactly happened? You asked me, but who should I ask? It was obvious. This earth-shattering roar did not attract much attention, and everyone just treated it as an ordinary roar of a demonic beast. Without my permission, no one from the Ning family is allowed to take half a step out of the Ning family. Ning Yu's reaction was completely different from everyone else's. His expression was solemn as he gave some instructions, and then his figure flashed, heading straight for the city gate of Tianxin City. Let's go too. Immediately after, the talisman martial supremacy and Yun Mu tore the void in unison and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The sudden departure of Ning Yu and the rest made the surrounding martial artists a little confused. They were still fine just now. Why did they leave immediately after hearing a demonic beast's roar? Could it be that the demonic beast that let out the roar was not ordinary? Ning Yu did not care about the thoughts of these onlookers, and he did not want to care either. Ning Yu stood on the city gate tower of Tianxin City, his eyes fixed on a huge creature below. Even though Ning Yu had lived 2 lives, he could not help but gasp when he saw that huge demonic beast below the city gate tower. Lightning Wolf. The huge creature below the city gate tower was not any other demonic beast, but a rank 8 demonic beast, the Lightning Wolf. The strength of this Lightning Wolf should be between a peak 1st grade human supreme and a 2nd grade human supreme. Yin Mu, who was beside Ning Yu, frowned. That's not the point. Ning Yu looked into the distance, took a deep breath, and murmured, "Lightning wolves have always liked to live in groups. This Lightning Wolf must be the king of the Lightning Wolves. If I'm not mistaken, the pack of Lightning Wolves should be arriving soon." Rumble. As expected, the moment Ning Yu's voice fell, smoke billowed in the distance. Countless Lightning Wolves rushed towards Tianxin City, striving to be the first. The densely packed Lightning Wolves' green eyes looked as though they were about to pop out, and it was a terrifying sight. We're doomed. At this moment, everyone in Tianxian City felt a sense of helplessness. Doomed. Completely doomed. Demonic beasts massacred the city. Although Tianxian City was adjacent to the magical Beast Mountain range, there had never been a case of demonic beasts massacring the city since its establishment. Chapter 893. Chapter 893. Lightning Wolf King. The lightning wolf pack that was charging over instantly cast a shadow over profound Heaven City. Dispirited, depressed, lost, terrified. All kinds of uneasy feelings grew and spread in the hearts of the people in Tianxian City. Damn it, we are so unlucky. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have come to Tianxian City. Yeah, we are doomed this time. Maybe the lightning wolf pack is just here for fun and will leave soon. Damn it, I can't lie anymore. Let's find a way out before we become food for the lightning wolves. In a room in Tianxian City, there were 3 young martial artists in the room, 2 men and 1 woman. The cultivation of these 3 martial artists was very high. The young woman was half a step to the honorable realm. The other 2 men had slightly lower cultivation, but they were at the peak of the blessed realm. Although Tianxian City is next to the magic Beast Mountain range, it is not normal for such a large scale of demonic beasts to attack the city. The taller young man frowned. According to my guess, there must be an uproar in the magic Beast Mountain range. Looks like the rumors are true. The other young man said, let's not waste any more time. Let's leave Tianxian City quickly. The earlier we enter the magic Beast Mountain range, the earlier we can get first-hand information. No hurry. The young woman waved her hand and said, slaughtering the entire city is a big event. Why don't we go and join in the fun? Creak. Then, the young woman stood up and walked out of the room, ignoring the other 2 men's reactions. Looking at the young woman's back, the 2 men had a cold look on their faces. They then disappeared after the young woman. Howl! At the same time, below the city gate of Tianxian City, the Lightning Wolf King howled at the sky. Instantly, the wolf pack behind him stopped in unison. Human. The Lightning Wolf King took 2 steps forward and said, is there a person called Ningyu in Tianxian City? Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He knew something was wrong. It seemed like the Lightning Wolf King was looking for him. Wolf King, why are you looking for Ningyu? Ningyu asked without batting an eyelid. I've been entrusted with a task, so I'll take Ningyu's head. The Lightning Wolf King said in a deep voice. Voila! The words of the Lightning Wolf King caused an uproar in Tianxian City. So these demonic beasts are here for Ningyu. Doesn't that mean that as long as we hand over Ningyu, these demonic beasts will retreat? In theory, yes, but the demonic beasts are fickle and cunning. No one can say for sure. Who cares? Just hand over Ningyu first. In this world, there have always been many foolish people. At first, the people in Tianxian City were just discussing it. But as the discussion went on, they decided to hand over Ningyu. Whoosh! Hence, after a few minutes of discussion, everyone worked together to recommend a martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm. This martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm flashed and instantly flew to the top of the city tower. Wolf King, I know who Ningyu is. After the martial artist flew to the top of the city tower, he ignored Ningyu and Yun Mu's gazes and said in a clear voice, but before I tell you, I want to make a deal with you. Speak. The Lightning Wolf King's expression was a little ugly. You must promise me that you will only kill Ningyu and ensure the safety of the others. After the martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm finished speaking, he turned around and smiled at the people in Tianxian City, as if he was saying that he saved them. At this moment, the martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm felt like he was the savior of the world. The grateful gazes of the crowd made him feel a little smug. Come here. The Lightning Wolf King frowned slightly. The feeling of being led by the nose made him very unhappy. Thinking of what happened in the magical Beast Mountain range, the Lightning Wolf King said in a deep voice, What do you want? The martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm looked at the Lightning Wolf King warily. I swear in the name of the Wolf God that I will not hurt you. The Lightning Wolf King said calmly. All right. When a martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm heard that the Lightning Wolf King wanted him to go over, he was a little afraid and even wanted to retreat. However, when he heard the Lightning Wolf King's vow, he nodded his head and moved in a flash, wanting to go over. Wait! At this moment, Ningyu said, the Lightning Wolf is extremely cunning. If you go over like this, it will be too childish. Oomph. The Lightning Wolf King has already made a vow. Can he still kill me? The martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm thought that Ningyu wanted to stop him, so he snorted coldly and flew straight toward the Lightning Wolf King. Moreover, as the martial artist flew, he said in a clear voice, Lightning Wolf King, listen carefully. That martial artist is Ningyu. You must recognize him. Puff. However, evil had its retribution. Before the martial artist in the middle stage of Blessed Realm finished speaking, he opened his mouth slightly, and his eyes widened. You said that you would not kill me. The martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm roared with all his strength. I did say that I would not kill you, and I did. The Lightning Wolf King stared at the corpse of the martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm and said calmly, I'm not the one who killed you. Hiss. Seeing the martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm torn in half, the martial artists who were discussing the hand over Ningyu immediately turned pale. The Lightning Wolves were indeed cunning. Trading with them was like asking a tiger for its skin. Ningyu, the Lightning Wolf King, kicked the martial artist in the middle stage of the creation realm into the wolf pack and glared at Ningyu. Someone wants to take your head. Are you going to chop it off yourself? Or do I have to do it? In fact, the Lightning Wolf King had long guessed Ningyu's identity. The reason why he did not attack immediately was because he was more afraid of the Talisman Supremacy. The Talisman Supremacy was a peak grade 1 human supremacy and was extremely powerful. Furthermore, he sensed an extremely familiar aura from the young lady beside the Talisman Supremacy. That aura was extremely similar to the martial artist who forced him to take Ningyu's head. They should be from the same sect. The Lightning Wolf King thought to himself. Back in a magical beast mountain range, the Lightning Wolf King had witnessed Zhu Zhan's super combat strength. With just one move, Zhu Zhan easily defeated him. If not for the fact that he sensed an aura similar to Zhu Zhan's from Yunmu, the Lightning Wolf King would have long attacked. Why would he wait until now? Lightning Wolf King, can you tell me who wants to take my head? Ningyu frowned and asked. You really talk a lot of nonsense. The Lightning Wolf King said impatiently. Give me a straightforward answer. Are you going to kill yourself, or do I have to do it? Everyone's lips twitched when they heard the Lightning Wolf King's words. That was too King much. Wanting to take someone else's head and blaming them for talking too much? I also want to see how powerful a rank 8 Lightning Wolf is. Ningyu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. To Ningyu, there was only a battle. Chapter 894. Chapter 894. Battle Wolf Formation. Battle Wolf Formation. Hearing that Ningyu had accepted the challenge, the Lightning Wolf King looked at Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yunmu before shouting. Whoosh! Following the Lightning Wolf King's shout, the wolf pack behind him started to move. With the Lightning Wolf King as the center, the wolf pack spread out layer by layer. They actually used the Battle Wolf Formation. Ningyu's eyes narrowed as he felt that something was amiss. The Battle Wolf Formation was a battle formation unique to the Lightning Wolf clan. In ancient times, Lightning Wolves would definitely use the Battle Wolf Formation in a duel. The strongest point of the Battle Wolf Formation was its defensive power. It was difficult for ordinary cultivators to break through the Battle Wolf Formation formed by the wolf pack. In other words, if Ningyu accepted the challenge, it would be difficult for him to escape, regardless of the outcome. Ningyu, I'll give you a chance to challenge me. The Lightning Wolf King stood in the center of the Battle Wolf Formation and stared at Ningyu. If you have the guts to enter the Battle Wolf Formation, I can promise to leave your corpse intact. Ningyu's face was dark, and no one knew what he was thinking. Beside him, Yin Mu and Venerable Talisman Marshal had no intention of making a move. The situation was clear. Whoever made a move would be the enemy of the entire Lightning Wolf Pack. Even a Grade 2 Sovereign wouldn't dare to try such a terrifying outcome, not to mention a Grade 1 Sovereign like Venerable Talisman Marshal, whose domain was damaged. Aunt Yun, the Lightning Wolf King, said that he was entrusted by someone to take Ning Yu's head. Yin Mu frowned and whispered, "Is there a possibility that this person is Zhu Zhan?" Venerable Talisman Marshal shook his head and said, "It's hard to say. After all, Ning Yu has offended too many people. Whether it's the Corpse Sect or the Blood God Palace, there are people with this ability. Aunt Yun, if you make a move, how confident are you in defeating the Lightning Wolf King and breaking the Battle Wolf formation?" Yin Mu stared at Ning Yu, who was hovering in midair with his hands clasped behind his back. "You wanted to make a move?" Venerable Talisman Marshal looked at Yin Mu with a faint smile. "How could that be? I'm just afraid that after Ning Yu is killed, the Lightning Wolf King would not keep its promise and launch another attack on Profound Sky City, which would affect us." Yin Mu hurriedly explained, "There's no need to say more. You must remember your mission." The Talisman Supremacy waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Before you succeed, you can't have any romantic feelings." Xiao! Xiao! At this moment, two figures approached from afar, galloping over. Looking at the approaching figure, Ning Yu's face lit up. Dark Emperor, Red Devil. The reason why Ning Yu did not enter the Battle Wolf formation was partly because he was afraid of the Lightning Wolf King's strength, and partly because he was waiting for the Red Fiend. The Red Fiend was the sword spirit of the Red Fiend sword. Without the Red Fiend, the might of the Red Fiend sword would be greatly reduced. Two small shrimps. The Lightning Wolf King merely glanced at the Dark Emperor and the Red Devil King, and then he turned his head to look at Ning Yu. "Don't tell me that these two are your helpers." "Why? Are you afraid?" Ning Yu's lips curled up as he said indifferently, "What a joke. These two small shrimps? I don't even need to do anything. My battle wolves can kill them with ease." The Lightning Wolf King said coldly, "If that's the case, there shouldn't be a problem for the three of us to fight you together, right?" Ever since the Dark Emperor and the Red Fiend arrived, Ning Yu's worry had lessened a little. Ning Yu might not have much confidence in fighting the Lightning Wolf King alone. Now that the Dark Emperor and the Red Fiend were included, Ning Yu had a 50% chance of defeating him and a 10% chance of killing him. No problem. What problem can there be? Cut the crap and enter the Battle Wolf formation, the Lightning Wolf King said impatiently. Swish, swish, swish. Ning Yu, the Dark Emperor, and the others looked at each other, and then they moved in unison, instantly landing within the War Wolf formation. SSS. The moment he stepped into the Battle Wolf formation, Ning Yu could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The terrifying pressure from all directions pounced on him. If not for the fact that Ning Yu was prepared, he might have knelt down on the spot. It's actually 10 times the gravity. After stabilizing his body, Ning Yu's heart was in turmoil. Not only was the Battle Wolf formation terrifying, the gravity inside was also different from the outside world. To be honest, Ning Yu would be more or less affected if he fought under 10 times the gravity. Battle Wolf formation. Adjust the gravity. The Lightning Wolf King roared into the sky, and the surrounding lightning wolves began to move. Damn it! As the lightning wolves moved, Ning Yu's expression turned uglier and uglier. That was because Ning Yu realized that the gravity around him had changed again. 10 times the gravity, 11 times, 12 times. In just a few minutes, the gravity in the Battle Wolf formation had reached a terrifying 20 times. 20 times the gravity. If it was any mid-stage manifestation realm martial artist, their strength would be reduced by about half. Ning Yu was different. He was only slightly affected. Die! After the gravity increased to 20 times, the Lightning Wolf King roared, stomped on the ground, and charged forward. Solitaire! Ning Yu flicked his wrist, and the red demon sword in his hand slashed down with a sword wave. TSK, TSK. The sword wave, which was as thick as a waist, drew a beautiful arc in the air and attacked the Lightning Wolf King. Insignificant skill. Looking at the sword wave that was approaching him, the Lightning Wolf King's lips curled up. Then, the Lightning Wolf King opened his mouth and spat out a gust of wind. Lightning wave. A gas that was not too big flew out of the Lightning Wolf King's mouth and collided with Solitaire. Rumble. The two collided. Neither could do anything to the other. The sword wave and a lightning wave both dissipated. Oh, not bad, not bad. You do have some skills. Seeing the lightning wave dissipate, the Lightning Wolf King said darkly, "If not for someone's request, I might have taken you as my mount. What a pity." As soon as he said that, the Lightning Wolf King instantly shot out. Howl, howl, howl. The Lightning Wolf King's attack was extremely ferocious, and it displayed the strength that the leader of the Lightning Wolves should have. The surrounding Lightning Wolves all let out howls. Howl my **s. Hearing the howls of the Lightning Wolves, the Dark Emperor curled his lips and said in disdain, "If not for your leader, I would have devoured all of you." The Dark Emperor was a heaven-devouring dog, and he was known to devour heaven and earth. The most painful thing in the world was to be faced with so much delicious food, but not be able to enjoy it. Right now, the Dark Emperor was on the verge of collapse. Devour my **s. The Red Demon rolled his eyes at the Dark Emperor and said, "Even without the Lightning Wolf leader, you won't be able to devour all these Lightning Wolves. Let me ask you, how confident are you that you can leave the Battle Wolf formation?" Hearing the Red Demon's words, the Dark Emperor was so angry that his nose became crooked. The Battle Wolf formation was terrifying, but it was still lacking if it wanted to trap the leader of the heaven-devouring dog race. Open your eyes wide and see how I broke through the Warwolf formation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.